So on this podcast, it's fair to say we're going to talk a lot about
UFOs.
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 Full-time into UFOs.
Over 100 UFOs. The UFOs.
The UFO world came to my door.
There's UFO sightings and more.
Okay.
This
is really interesting.
What is your best piece of evidence that UFOs are real? Show it to me. Show it to me. Put it in my hands.
The sexual things that aliens had done.
Fuck this.
Yeah. This field is a mess. This topic is an absolute disaster.
All this shit about UFOs.
UFOs may not be extraterrestrial.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Corbell. I'm really into this, but I'm not a crazy person. I really want to know the truth. And I've got a few things that I've been doing.
The hell was that?
UFOs.
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 UFOs every day.
I love licking Bob Lazar's butthole. It's my favorite butthole to lick.
Thanks for being here. This is Truthseekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truthseekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truthseekers. Truthseekers.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Tonight, we're going to be sort of re-exploring some things we've already explored here. It appears that this whole Skinwalker scam, it just keeps popping up. And it's interesting to see the connections of the people that were involved previously as part of a so-called research effort largely into Skinwalker Ranch. And I think it's amazing that George Knapp claims to be an investigative reporter, investigative journalist, and instead of investigating how these clowns that he's working with, wasted $22 million in taxpayer money, studying things like, werewolves, poltergeists, dino beavers, ghosts, goblins, instead of investigating that, George Knapp decided it would be a great idea to write a book with one of the insiders into that $22 million of wasted taxpayer dollars. And it's extremely interesting to me that there are 2 sides to every story. And one of the things I've noticed quite often about the Grift Squad is that the grift works by the lie by omission. They just forget to tell you some things, like telling you of this incredible research effort into the paranormal and Skinwalker Ranch, but not telling you the truth about what happened there. First of all, it was a no-bid sweetheart deal contract that Harry Reid and some friends of his in government who are wackadoos. And let's take a moment to recognize that fact. There are wackadoos everywhere, including within the United States government. So, you know, it's not surprising that a bunch of wackadoos that just happen to work for the government, who all share a similar wackadoo belief system, would get together and decide to waste taxpayer money on their wackadoo belief systems. And this is exactly what happened here. And people have been cashing in on Skinwalker Ranch ever since. And the interesting part of all of this is there's zero verifiable real evidence of paranormal activity on Skinwalker Ranch. I'm going to say that one more time. There is zero verifiable evidence of Skinwalker Ranch. Now, sure, there's lots of stories, unverified reports of ghosts and goblins and werewolves and shapeshifters, oh my, but there's no evidence. And in fact, George Knapp wrote a whole book about Skinwalker. And in the preface or preface, I'm not sure. How do you say that? I think it's preface, preface, whatever. You know, on one of the first pages of the book, he claims that the book is based on all of this mountain of available evidence. But when pressed on the Joe Rogan show, he had to admit that there is no evidence. So he lied on the first page of his book about having all this evidence, and the evidence doesn't exist. And then when we get to, and of course, that is the, Bob Bigelow era. Bob Bigelow got handed $22 million in taxpayer-funded money to study his own ranch, which is exactly like you or I getting handed $22 million after claiming our house is haunted. Like, what if the government just gave you $22 million? Yes, study that. Study that. Let us know. Let us know what happened with that. So some wackadoos in government got together with some wackadoos in private industry, all sharing wackadoo belief systems about the paranormal. They wasted $22 million in your money and my money. And but the money spent on this is just astronomical. It is incalculable. Because after the $22 million in government money, I'm told Bigelow pumped some of his own money in too somehow into these organizations he was running and funding the research of UFO wackadoos. Then along comes millionaire, some say billionaire, real estate investor Brandon Fugel, who buys the ranch from Bigelow in a deal brokered by Hal Puthoff. You remember Mr. Science Wackadoo, right? Who's in with all these same people. And he buys the ranch and instantly monetizes it. That's why I called tonight's broadcast Monetized. We are definitely monetizing some spooky ranch in the middle of nowhere. And this monetization has gone on and on and on. And I think that George Knapp has already written 2 books. Now he's got a 3rd book with the same wackadoo insider that believed that poltergeists followed him home from Skinwalker Ranch and attacked his family. A lot of wackadoo belief systems going on. So we want to take a moment, of course, to recognize and welcome in the live chat. We've got great attendance here already tonight. And no matter where you are chatting, we welcome and appreciate all of you. And look at that. I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you become a YouTube channel member of ours during a live broadcast, we give you a thank you and a shout out. So there's my thank you. Here's my thank you and shout out to the Sammy Jenkins Experience. We thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And by the way, I did see your message, Sammy Jenkins. I have to get a compressor. I have been avoiding doing this. The issue is that the volume of me speaking becomes a problem when I start yelling. So I need to get a compressor just to handle when I yell so that the volume doesn't change too much. And Luis Caetano, I wanted to remind you and everyone that we're going to be doing a discussion panel here. I was going to also go through this this broadcast of Monetized, the podcast. There's some pretty interesting things that are said there, and I thought we could sort of enlighten people. What is the truth? What is the true story behind the lies that people are peddling? And we're going to be doing a panel discussion. And so let me get over to the YouTube live chat, and I'm going to put that into the YouTube live chat and pin it. This would be the link that you or anyone can join our show. But I would caution you that I have an hour or so first to go through the presentation that I have prepared. And then, sure, I'm more than willing and open to have a discussion panel here. I think it would be helpful if other people, I've invited one person in particular to come here and help me break all of this down. It's a lot. There is so many layers of deception here. It's interesting to peel them back. 1 second here. Let me get my invitation link, and we're going to be putting that into, and I see the live chat lighting up with color. That's always good news. We'll check into that in a moment here. Link to join the panel. Wear headphones, please, and no nudity. And please be respectful of every other guest that is here on the panel. I have put that into the live chat. It's pinned right at the top. If you're listening on any other platform, Rumble, Twitch, or Twitter Live or Facebook Live feeds, just go over to the YouTube link, and pinned in the live chat of our YouTube live broadcast right now is a link to join the panel. But let me get over here and see. We've got things lighting up here. Oh, we have the Sammy Jenkins experience. That's what I'm saying. I was seeing it out of the corner of my eye. Oh, no, there is more. We have Deb from SAC, who is also a YouTube channel member. Shout out to Deb from SAC, longtime show supporter. Thanks for being a channel member and a $5 super sticker. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we've got UFO Shane, who's been a member for 2 months. We'll give him a shout out. Milestone chat, let's go. I went live today for the first time. Was dope. Also, let's buy a ranch and sell it to Bigelow. Woo. Well, thanks for being a member for 2 months. And yes, I did see, it's about time, Slacker. UFO Shane is a slacker. He's running all these Twitter spaces and ignoring YouTube as a platform. He did his first live broadcast, so go on over there and support him as well. All right, 1 second here. So I've got some interesting things to share with you about what you need to remember when we see this monetized griftcast is that these people have been cashing in on the Skinwalker legends for years. Both of them heavily invested and involved in cashing in on Skinwalker Ranch, but those two stick to the Bigelow era of the ranch, in which Bob Bigelow was given $22 million to study his own ranch, which, he claimed there was spooky paranormal activity. But imagine if you or I claimed that our houses had spooky paranormal activity. Would our senator friend give us $22 million and waste $22 million letting us play Ghostbusters? Because, listen, this is essentially what Skinwalker Ranch is. A bunch of wackadoos or paranormal dorks were given $22 million to go to a spooky ranch that is owned by Bob Bigelow and play Ghostbusters. And that's exactly what they did. They played Ghostbusters, my friends, for years. And they wasted the whole $22 million. And all we got is reports of nonsense activity. And Stephen Greenstreet has done an excellent job breaking this all down for the New York Post. See his basement office series, in which he details that, people were concerned when they worked for Bigelow, sucking up this $22 million, that they were going to lose their jobs. And they knew that Bigelow wanted to hear about paranormal stuff. So they would get drunk and just send him fake stories. It's great. So my notes here are on the enigma of Skinwalker Ranch. And tonight we'll be taking a bit of a skeptical examination of the extravagant claims and wasted resources that have been wasted, in my view, on Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch is situated in the Uintah Basin of Utah and has long been the subject of sensationalized stories of paranormal activity. Chief among the profiteers selling these stories has been George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. The ranch's history is marred with controversy, notably the no-bid contract awarded to former owner Bob Bigelow, who was granted $22 million in taxpayer funds to study alleged paranormal phenomenon on the ranch that he himself owned and was making paranormal claims about. Tonight, we'll look at this from a skeptical perspective, delving into the quite ludicrous claims of werewolves, dino beavers, poltergeists, and aliens, which have not been substantiated by any concrete evidence. Furthermore, we'll be examining the allegations of fraud and abuse, as well as the misallocation of research funds given to Bob Bigelow. After all, that's your money and my money. Do you want a guy being handed $22 million to study paranormal activity on a ranch that just he and some of his friends and fellow wackadoos claim has paranormal activity? And where does the UFO situation fit into this? Because if you read through those reports that were generated for the $22 million, it's very little actual UFO research, but somehow this gets tagged in as well. They spent a great deal of time researching nonsense, things like ghosts and poltergeists. The involvement of prominent figure George Knapp, who wrote several books suggesting substantial evidence was available, will also be scrutinized tonight. And tonight we'll conclude with an evaluation of the current owner, Brandon Fugel, and his monetization of the ranch through television shows, an entertainment company he started, and live events, all while the credible evidence that these people are always promising about Skinwalker Ranch remains glaring. So Skinwalker Ranch has long been alleged to have been a long time now, has been alleged to be a hotbed of paranormal and unexplained activity, garnering attention from the likes of the media, conspiracy theorists, and the curious alike. The allure of the ranch lies in the mystique of its legends, from werewolves to dino beavers to poltergeists to shapeshifters and aliens. However, the lack of any concrete evidence supporting these claims have left many, including myself, questioning the validity of all of these stories, especially when we consider the profit-driven motive behind these stories. We'll begin tonight with an examination of the Bob Bigelow era, because the dubious history of Skinwalker Ranch took an unexpected turn when former owner Bob Bigelow was awarded a no-bid contract for a staggering $22 million to investigate the alleged paranormal phenomenon taking place on this ranch that he himself owned. It's important to note that he was a big campaign contributor to the senator who somehow awarded him a $22 million no-bid contract. And despite the considerable sum of taxpayer money invested, little to no substantial evidence has ever been produced by any of the people selling these stories to substantiate all the extravagant claims surrounding the ranch. This expenditure has even raised eyebrows and incited accusations of wasteful government spending and a complete and total lack of oversight for what the money was used for. And let's talk for a moment about these extravagant claims being made by all the people selling these stories. Because intriguingly, the tales from Skinwalker Ranch have run the gambit from bizarre to completely outlandish, in my view. There were reports of werewolves prowling the grounds, and dino beavers roaming the vicinity have left many skeptics shaking their heads. And it's also important that we recognize and understand that, George Knapp especially has made quite a living. He has made quite a living selling the Skinwalker stories. And my favorites are when he talks about the dogmen and the werewolves and the smoking dogs. Oh, geez, So the claims are so ridiculous, so ludicrous and extravagant. I can't even describe them to you, but I don't have to, because thanks to Stephen Greenstreet, by the way, these are his clips that I've been using these for a long time. it perfectly, shows the ridiculousness of George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell and the stories that they sell.
She saw this standing on two legs, a wolf creature, a wolf standing in her yard, its paws crossed like this, leaning on a tree, staring back at her.
They come down this dirt road one night and they see two figures, humanoid-looking figures, standing up with their backs to the road and looked like they were smoking cigarettes. They had trench coats on, smoking cigarettes, standing out on the road. These guys figure, what are these fellas up to? So they're pulling up and they go shining their lights on the guys, and they turn around and they were dogs.
Yeah, my friends. So this is how ridiculous some of the stories get. And remember, these are stories. There's no evidence of this, and I don't know about you, but if I saw two dogs smoking cigarettes, I'd get my camera and I would wouldn't you take a picture of two dogs smoking cigarettes, standing like this, smoking cigarettes? Come on, man. But this is the ridiculousness of Knapp. And the ridiculousness of some of these people that are involved in selling this story. It's not just George Knapp. We've even got somebody who apparently is an optical physicist, but he can't tell the difference between a spaceship flying at 40,000 miles an hour and a bug. That would be one Travis Taylor. He's the idiot scientist in my view. I'm sorry. Great. You got some science degrees. You're still an idiot if you're an optical physicist and you can't tell the difference between a spaceship flying at 40,000 miles an hour in Earth's atmosphere and a bug. And it's like, this guy's like the Beverly Hillbillies. Anyway, here's one of the people involved in selling these myths, these stories.
I'm Dr. Travis Taylor. I'm a subject matter expert in space defense, asymmetric warfare, rocket science, and alien invasions. I've really studied this phenomenon my whole life, and I've made a pretty good detailed investigation into what might happen where we have first contact with extraterrestrials. Now, this message is a welcome and a warning for any UFOs or aliens out there that might receive this signal and decide to act upon it. First, the signal was sent against my advisement. Second, if you do show up, you got to keep this in mind. Humanity is mostly a peace-loving, fun-loving species, but we have a very good propensity to make warfare, and if anybody shows up and tries to impose things on us, cultural or alien concepts that are something against what we're all about, we will make darn sure to activate our warfare-making machine. So keep that in mind and come visit us. We'll have a good time. We'll learn from each other. We'll see y'all soon.
That's one of the people that we're supposed to trust is, finding all this paranormal activity. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that these people, some of these people involved. So there is just a lack of substantive evidence. And, we've heard all of these stories about dino beavers and dogmen and werewolves and poltergeists, but we haven't seen any actual evidence. And these stories have been accompanied by equally absurd claims of things like poltergeists following people home or wreaking havoc, and extraterrestrial beings or shapeshifters visiting the ranch, as well as UFO activity. And while the fantastical nature of these claims may make for entertaining television shows or anecdotes, they hardly constitute real or credible evidence. So there's a lack of any real evidence. That's one of the most significant issues surrounding Skinwalker Ranch, is the absolute absence of tangible evidence to support the stories. And despite millions of dollars being pumped into investigations and including the aforementioned $22 million research contract, there is still, after $22 million dumped in, no concrete proof of paranormal activity on the ranch. With such extraordinary claims, one would expect an abundance of empirical data and documented experiences. However, this has just not materialized, further casting doubt on the veracity of the stories. Notably, we really do need to recognize George Knapp and the elusive evidence, because notably, George Knapp has played a pivotal role for years now, disseminating the mythology of Skinwalker Ranch through his books and media appearances. Knapp has professed to having access to substantial evidence supporting the existence of paranormal activity and the stories about the ranch. However, his credibility was called into question on an episode of Joe Rogan when it became very evident that his claims were primarily based on anecdotal accounts or stories and unverified accounts from, in some cases, less than credible people. Knapp's books may have piqued the curiosity of many, entertained some with exciting tales of spooky ghost stories from a spooky ranch, but they have consistently failed to deliver the compelling evidence that was promised. Next, we get into Brandon Fugel's monetization of Skinwalker Ranch, because Skinwalker Ranch passed into the hands of real estate developer Brandon Fugel in 2016, and Fugel's approach to the property was markedly different from his predecessors, including Bob Bigelow, who was very private about investigating these claims. Brandon Fugel took it public with a television show as he sought to monetize the ranch. The development of the television show, entertainment ventures, and live events has turned the once mysterious ranch into a commercial enterprise. While this may be a very good business strategy, it detracts from the stated purpose that Brandon Fugel said he had, which would be a serious scientific investigation of paranormal claims. And this focus on monetizing and cashing in, it raises concerns that the pursuit of profits may have eclipsed any grand quest for the truth. Then, of course, Skinwalker Ranch has been rife with hoaxes, sensationalism, and an absence of credible evidence. The legacy of Bob Bigelow's $22 million contract continues to raise questions regarding the misuse of research funds. After all, you spent $22 million studying this ranch and you have no credible evidence? You just have stories of werewolves and smoking dogmen? The extravagant stories, coupled with the lack of substantive evidence, cast a long shadow over the ranch's credibility. Even the involvement of figures like George Knapp has done little to bolster the case for paranormal activity at Skinwalker Ranch, especially given George Knapp's admission that he has no evidence. Skinwalker Ranch will remain a captivating mystery to some, but one that is shrouded in doubt and skepticism because of the lack of concrete evidence, alongside the extravagant and often ludicrous claims. And these ludicrous claims call into question the validity of the paranormal stories surrounding this place. The involvement of Bob Bigelow and the misallocation of research funds, as well as the inability of George Knapp to provide the compelling evidence he promised he had, further muddies the water. The current owner, Brandon Fugel, has taken a commercial approach to the ranch, which, while profitable, raises concerns about the prioritization of monetary gain over genuine paranormal or scientific investigation. The history of Skinwalker Ranch serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of allowing sensationalism, profit-driven motives, and commercial interests to obscure the search for genuine answers into the world of the unexplained. So, what a lot of people are missing when you see this monetized podcast is there they are with one of the people that wasted $22 million on chasing werewolves and dino beavers, right? And do they ask him, like, hey, what did you guys spend all that money on? Of course not. Of course not, because George Knapp has a business relationship with that person, right? And they do not want to sully that relationship with things like facts and, evidence, right? And it's interesting, you got to know that that's kind of a conflict of interest. George Knapp is like a partner in books with this person that's being interviewed. Do you think they're going to do a real incredible job actually interviewing this guy? That, you know, if I had interviewed him, I would ask him, where's the $22 million? What did you spend all that money on? Explain this to me. Because that was my taxpayer money. I contributed to that. What happened to all of the $22 million? We never get a thorough explanation from any of the people involved, including Bigelow and others. But it's interesting that, you know, essentially taking $22 million of taxpayer money and wasting it on werewolves and dino beavers and smoking dog men stories, you know, they're not done. Now they want money to tell the inside baseball, the story of all of that, as if it's a good thing. Like, yeah, we wasted $22 million. Buy my book and hear all about it. This is the other side of the story that they're not giving you. And 1 second here. Let me, we're going to get into this weaponized monetized. Hold on. Let me relabel it. Monetized. All right, I've retitled their video. For those unaware, I mirror the videos that we share here just so we can avoid, you know, a lot of these people have ads cranked all the way up, and we don't want to sit through all of that. So I labeled it monetized. I wasted $22 million on a spooky ranch. And we are going to get into their video. Because there was some interesting things discussed about AAWSAP and AATIP, which is a whole nother, you know, wasted effort in my view. But let me put my fair use banner up. I saw somebody come in. We're going to get into this video for a while and then do the panel show. So if you'd like to join, you might want to wait a little bit here. 1 second here. We'll get our fair use banner up because this is fair use. We will be critiquing the video that we are sharing and using it to educate the public. And this, of course, is a transformative work that tips the balance in favor of fair use. So let's get into their video. Monetized. I wasted $22 million on a spooky ranch. And by the way, you know, somebody recently asked me on the show if I listen to that podcast, and no, I don't. But because so many people sent me links to this, we decided to do this today because so many people sent me links, and I thought it would be a good idea to go through and correct some of the lies. It's interesting. He lies, and well, anyway, we'll get into it when we have the video here. 1 moment here. Why is this not working? Let me try this. Hold on 1 second here. I'm just trying to get our there we go. Trying to get our background. Okay. So I'm not sure how much of this we're going to make it through, but we'll give it a good attempt.
Okay, but the real Men in Black, are we talking about humans or non-human intelligence? So what is the real Men in Black compared to just government agents being, you know, interrogating people?
I think there's enough evidence in the literature to indicate that the phenomenon may be associated with some cases of what we call Men in Black.
But what are they?
Spooky. Oh, it's so spooky.
Secrets, cover-ups, and strange phenomena.
UFOs and ideas that challenge reality itself.
I love the intro.
All this time.
It's like somebody that just got a glitch overlay decided to make a show intro, right?
To get to the bottom of these.
My name is George Knapp. I dig into news stories that others can't or won't.
I'm Jeremy Corbell. And for some reason, people
no, they sell fake nonsense. That's what they do.
Tell me things they probably shouldn't. And this is weaponized.
Monetized. Sorry.
All right, you guys, welcome to Weaponized. We had some technological problems. I'm going to blame that on George Knapp, but we have a great episode with Dr. James Lukatsky, Dr.
You can't work a
Colin
live stream.
Kelleher,
It's George Knapp's fault.
talking about the UFO programs and their new book, which is Inside the U.S. Government Covert UFO Program, Initial Revelations.
Yeah, and here's another thing. Even the title of the new book is misleading because most of the $22 million was not spent on UFO research. But they're going to turn it into a UFO research project because that's popular right now and people will pay for the book. They'll probably sell a lot more books if they leave out, you know, all the nonsense of dino beavers, werewolves, smoking dogs, poltergeists following people home, right? A very, very small percentage of what that group did was actual UFOs, apparently.
So jumping on in with all you all, here we go.
Jim Lukatsky, it's so great to have you and Colin here to talk about AAWSAP. For the benefit of our audience that does not understand the difference between AAWSAP and AATIP, your new book, Inside the U.S. Government Covert UFO Program, Initial Revelations, really draws a distinction. And it's not bashing AATIP. It's not going after Lou Elizondo or showing differences. But there were distinct differences between those two programs. Can you outline for our audience, those who are not aware of what each of those acronyms mean, what the difference was?
Well, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications program was basically created between myself and Senator Reed at the Defense Intelligence Agency.
Yeah, so Reed, a paranormal wackadoo, and him, a paranormal wackadoo, Mr. Lukatsky decided to waste government resources and funds on chasing UFOs. And isn't it interesting? George Knapp is interviewing him to promote his book, and George Knapp says, "Your new book." Your new book? Don't you mean our new book, George Knapp? Like, at least be honest about that. Your name's right on the goddamn book, George Knapp, right? But hey, I don't have a problem. It's his platform. Well, I guess it's Corbell's platform, and he's a guest co-host with him or what. But what I don't have a problem with them promoting their own book on their own channel. But at least be honest with the audience. Don't call it the guest's book when your name is right on the goddamn book, dude. You know, it's layers of deception, right? Layers and layers and layers of deception. Okay, so Reed and him decided to start this program to study spooky stuff and UFOs.
It was a $22 million program. It had the capability of going 5 years. We completed our objectives in 2 years.
What was your objectives? Writing down a bunch of stories about werewolves and dino beavers and nonsense? Because that's all you guys did in 2 years?
You might say it was tests of various components of a UFO, UAP, paranormal research program. Right from the beginning, it included all
paranormal
aspects
on there
of both UFOs and the paranormal in relationship to UFOs. It was a contract that was put out on the internet. It had a quick turnaround because of the funding mechanism. The first year was $10 million. The second year was $12 million.
How do you spend $10 million in 1 year with a couple of guys hanging out at a ranch looking for spooky stuff? How do you spend 10 million? I'm allowed to ask that question. You know why? That was my money that this clown wasted on his personal belief systems, you know?
And we got it out. We had numerous interested parties who wished to bid on the contract.
Nobody bid on the contract but Bigelow. He's going to try to obfuscate that. It was a no-bid sweetheart deal. The contract was created for Bigelow to be handed to Bigelow, and it was handed to Bigelow. Bigelow was the only bidder. And there's a lot of controversy about that because apparently you can't have a no-bid government contract. People have to be free to bid on it. Nobody bid on it but Bigelow.
But following the regulations, it first had to go to small businesses. Well, the only small business, we found small businesses that we completed our
Oh,
objective
I'm sorry.
components.
Let me back.
Well, let me back that up.
Numerous
So he's saying that they fulfilled all the requirements of this the bidding on this contract, but he couldn't have because nobody else bid on it.
because of the funding mechanism. The first year was $10 million.
I'm sorry,
The
back up a little
second
too
year was
much.
$12 million. And we
Let me take some comments while we do this.
we got it out. We had numerous interested parties who wished to bid on the contract, but following the regulations, it first had to
They
go
didn't
to
follow.
small
I don't believe they did.
businesses. Well, the only small business, we found small businesses that were capable of bidding on it, but they chose not to. Bob Bigelow's Bass created specifically, and that was so important to DIA, specifically to address our needs.
How is the Defense Intelligence Agency's needs met by people hanging out at a spooky ranch looking for ghosts, demons, shapeshifters, werewolves, smoking dogs, and UFOs? Is that because of the UFOs that the Defense Intelligence Agency was concerned about? Maybe, I don't know.
In this program. And when I say needs, we used a new method of putting out this request for proposal. We did not tell the contractor, the bidder, what to do. We said, this is what we wanted achieved. How would you do it?
That's great. So they didn't tell them what to do. They just handed them $22 million and told them that they want what? Spooky reports about UFOs? Because that's what they got, that and werewolves and everything else.
And that's how this program was created and had specifically all the right components.
All the right components. And listen, I want to make sure that we make very clear, there's two sides to this. A wiser man than I once said this, and it's very true. There's two sides to every story. And somewhere in the middle is the truth. So George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell's version of this story is, oh, this is great. The government started a $22 million UFO program. It wasn't about UFOs. Notice he snuck in paranormal, right? This is the guy who, I believe, he thinks that poltergeists followed him home from Skinwalker Ranch and haunted his house, right? But anyway, two sides to every story. So their story is, wow, isn't this cool? The government had this paranormal research program, and we have the guy who was sort of the government person in charge, but they gave the contract to do the actual work to Bob Bigelow. He got $22 million in free money to do whatever he wanted with, apparently. That's the other side of the story. Their side of the story is, this is great. The paranormal research. They wasted $22 million chasing werewolves, these idiots. Maybe that's a more important part of the story, but we get the lie by omission from the two douches deluxe over here. The two douches deluxe. The douches deluxe are just going to leave out that they got nothing for 22. We got nothing for $22 million. The government got a bunch of reports, some of which may have been written by drunk people, sent to Bob Bigelow to tell him that there was spooky stuff going on at the ranch so that they could keep getting their paychecks every week. What's the more important part of the story? Knapp and Corbell are selling you the spooky stories, but they're not telling you the truth behind the reality of it is that some government wackadoos got together with some non-government wackadoos and wasted $22 million on spooky stories.
Let me back up a little bit just for our listeners, people that are listening, and also just for the visual audience here. Dr. Lakatsky, first of all, in December 2017, the world learned that there was a UFO study program and that it was funded for $22 million. They heard that program was called AATIP, but what you've told us is that, no, you ran the program in the DIA for studying UFOs, and it was called AAWSAP, Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program. So you're talking now about a government study, a UFO program studying all the physics and the nature of UFOs up to date. And so you're kind of coming forward with these books with Dr. Kelleher and George Knapp, and you're laying it out for people. This is what we did. This is how we did it. We don't want it to get messed up. You know, we want to tell you what happened. It's a big deal. It's a big deal that you're speaking to us right now.
It's a big deal that you're not asking them where the money went, you clown.
So I guess the question for me, very simple, audience kind of might want to know, is that when that came out, December 2017, and you didn't see, your program named there, I mean, what does that feel like? Are you doing this because you want to clarify the record to the public?
Exactly. And we stated that clearly in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. We want to clarify the record. Now we're giving the details of the record. Now,
yeah, and for those unaware, this is the person, Lakatsky, who ran the real $22 million project that Lou Elizondo lied to the New York Times and claimed he ran. So, I am thankful that he came forward to clarify that Lou Elizondo is a liar. And by the time Lou Elizondo claimed to be running AATIP, the $22 million was gone, and AATIP was a volunteer effort. It wasn't an official program. It was not funded. It was Lou Elizondo declaring himself the director of a UFO program with no funding, that wasn't official, that didn't exist. So it was a hobby. This man ran the actual program when they were giving out the $22 million.
The thing is AATIP, the name itself, I did not create that name, but it was created for a specific reason. And I don't think that's ever been printed. It was done, yes, in Senator Reid's letter asking for special access program. That's been out in the press for, 5 years?
That's ridiculous, Sandra. Thanks for being a member.
Where did the need for a different name come from? It came from, which took me by surprise.
They did,
when I saw the funding, in other words, the notification of funding that, yes, DIA was getting.
Imagine being
money.
Given $22 million.
It was on a piece of paper that had highly classified programs listed on the rest of the paper. And
what happened to the other 10?
In Congress put secret on the program name and its very abbreviated contents that were on that document. I did not want to get us crossways with any security considerations. I wanted a different name.
All right, we'll play you can play devil's advocate, Arrows Andy. What did we get for the $22 million? You tell me. What did we get for the $22 million? It was a scam and a ripoff of the American taxpayers by wackadoos who believe in poltergeists and everything.
Now, I believe that who we called Axelrod, or perhaps Lou Elizondo, or perhaps some of their cohorts, and maybe all of them came up with the name AATIP. That name would have been a great problem for DIA.
Self-appointed expert that thinks players are aliens.
To the Defense Warning Office of DIA, period. It had to be that name. So the contract may have been called that too, because that's what we put at the open solicitation that can still be found on the internet.
You're correct, Steve Long. One person claimed they didn't get all the money.
Skinwalkers at the Pentagon.
So what happened to it?
Concise amount of material as to what we requested, but that's where the name AATIP came from.
They're muddying the waters, Louis.
Was something that was necessary to be proceeded with on military cases.
I could do something good with that as well. Yeah,
I was not privy because it was mainly spun up as I was getting ready to retire. I will say this though, that when I left, all of our references were electronically, specifically scanned in electronically at DIA. Now, I can't say what happened in the years since I retired in 2016. It could have been that they're purged, but they weren't physical records. So I don't see why there is a problem in people asking for them, except for the fact, and this is why these books are required, most of them were proprietary. Remember,
Yeah. Oh, my books are so important. Your book is a money grab, sir.
they were monthly reports from the contractor and specialized studies. They had people's names, contractor names, the facilities
I'll find a dino
that
beaver
were
for you,
being
bottle water. Thanks for being a member.
bought and constructed. They had security information.
I
They had
agree,
all
William
of
Brenner.
this,
There should be
and I have
investigation.
already told, I wasn't asked to have these documents cleaned for release, but the proprietary information is so much, I said preemptively, I wouldn't take on
Mrs.
that job.
Axelrod was not impressed,
It's
right?
just too much. We're doing it in this manner so the public knows what went on in that program within the constraints of security. I hope that answers your question.
Another
because
nothing burger.
AATIP was a specialized small program. It had access, I'm sure, to funds that I also had access to, but not use on this program, of where we can go out and let's say review facilities at DIA.
That's
I
interesting.
used them to review.
Thank you. We'll make sure we review that
missile
section of
contractors.
this.
In other words, so I could learn the nuts and bolts.
Thanks, JD.
But money, I'm sure, was available for AATIP, but nowhere near $22 million in 2
That's
years.
really helpful. So George,
was
we're
no
talking
money
about that,
for
like how
AATIP, because
AATIP
it
kept
didn't
its
exist.
legs because it was heroic in an attempt to kind of continue it. The fact there was money available wasn't out of the 22 million,
Really,
and we're
let's
making that
check
clear.
into that.
It was misreported in the New York Times. However, it is nice to know that somehow how they got any funding to do the work they were doing.
That's interesting.
Yes,
Really?
and I was aware of some of the programs that the cases that they were looking into, and I can
Wow,
say
thanks,
without
Anna
going
Louisa.
into detail,
Thanks for being a member.
because
We love
it's
our
a
members.
classified,
Thanks for being a member.
endeavor. I was fascinated by one of their cases because it was a repeat from the 60s. And if you go through our databases, you're going to see cases where people claim, wait a minute, I saw this same UFO when I was 20 years younger. And those cases kind of fascinate me. How can that be?
Maybe they were a
Are
wackadoo
we
twice.
talking about
I don't know.
time machines? What are we
time
talking
machines.
about?
Oh, it must be time machines.
You will find that another
Wackadoo
fascinating
speak.
point of our huge database
It must be time
would be the
machines.
equivalent of us going out for a drive in our car. And every car and truck we meet on the road is of a different design. I mean, to me, that's an interesting insight, because when people make up charts, and we have a nice one of all the configurations of UFOs,
I don't know how that
and
happened.
those are main configurations, like triangle.
Yeah.
They're very
The whole New York Times
variants
article
of
was a
triangles.
lie. I agree, Steve Long.
It's like, how can this be? I mean, it's like, certainly we're doing things exactly the opposite in the auto industry. Every SUV looks like every other SUV. You have to look at the name badge in order to tell what brand is that. I like it or I dislike it, but right now I like them all, mainly because they all look alike. In the UFOs, totally the opposite.
There's one.
All UFOs look different. Is that what he's saying? I don't know. I can't really follow this guy. He kind of
particular UFO design that gets discussed in the book that you reveal, and if you blink, you'll miss it. But it's maybe the most controversial and important piece of information that this book conveys. You say something at the beginning of chapter 9 about a craft of unknown origin that our government finally accessed the inside. Can you share with us what's in the book?
All right, so here's where we're selling the book. Look at this. I was inside a UFO. There was a book from the 1950s like that, right? The early contactee movements. Everything repeats, friends.
Is there anything else you can add to that?
Well, what's in the book is an exact statement of the event that occurred in the let's say in a congressional facility, there was more to it, considerably more to that discussion about what this situation was. We can't go into that because
he can't go into that. So buy the book, right? That's what this is. Oh, it's top secret, but it's in a book that anybody can buy on Amazon for $24.
And when I mean, Colin and I, yes, we know about it. People are interested in it, I'm quite sure, but security has to trump everything else. A lot of things can be said. This is
the old grift. I know all the alien secrets, but I can't tell you for it's security reasons, my NDAs, whatever. But buy my book. Come on, man. If you want people to buy the book, then spill the beans, bro.
This book, as with Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, I keep flashing the book.
Yeah, sell it, man. Praise the cash, brother.
Was reviewed by the Department of Defense for release and approved the wording that's in it, the wording. If we varied that wording, we get back. This was a 7-month review. This was quick. DOD on Skinwalkers at the Pentagon took 14 months to review that book.
Yeah, and just so everybody's aware, DOD has to review it and determine that there's no classified information. So he's saying, I can't talk about it, but if it's in the book, it's not classified, therefore he can talk about it. He's a liar.
There was, I agreed with all of the changes on both of these books. I agreed with, except for one. I made the fatal mistake of complimenting the help from a non-DOD organization. And it was, whoa, we can't do that. We've got to align that out. And so that was
it's top
the
secret,
only thing that was a straight line out.
No, it's not, because it's in the book. It was clear. He could talk about it, but he won't. Why? And so he's full of shit. That's why.
Jeremy,
okay, so hold on. So for our audience that's listening, George just dropped an atom bomb because it was dropped in the book. So audience is just listening. I'm going to read you something. Beginning of chapter 9. At the conclusion of a 2011 meeting in the Capitol building with a U.S. senator and an agency undersecretary, Lekatsky, the only one of the book's authors present, posed a question. But this is where it gets good. He stated, meaning you, Dr. Lekatsky, that the United States was in possession of a craft of unknown origin and had successfully gained access to its interior. This craft had a streamlined configuration suitable for aerodynamic flight, but no intakes, exhaust, wings, or control surfaces. In fact, it appeared not to have an engine, fuel tanks, or fuel. Now, there's a next part, which I'll read in a minute, but what this is you're officially allowed to tell us that the United States government has in its possession a craft of unknown origin, and you were able to access the inside. Is that correct?
The wording that you read is correct. You're going beyond the wording.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you, did that meeting happen? And is it true? And it's true.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you're telling us, you told us, because you were allowed to tell us, that our government has a UFO in its possession and has been able to access the inside of it, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, but here's where it gets confusing, because they are doing the conflation of unknown craft to it's got to be aliens. I'm sure there are black budget projects that appear to not have intakes or control surfaces. So what was it that this person was privy to see? Was it a black project? And if so, why is he allowed to talk about it? It gets very confusing, right?
I was allowed to tell you. Let me show the back of the book. This is.
I know. But hold up, George. Will you translate, George?
All right, let's try another tack. How do we know it's a craft and not a doorstop? We accessed it. It has no engine. It has no wings. No fuel. It doesn't. We don't know that it travels. Do we know it's a craft, or it's just a rock?
George, you're going into the further discussion that occurred that day.
All right.
we can't go there. But let me tell you, we're going to try to cover that in the future. But it's delicate. It makes
again, if it's cleared to be in the book, he's allowed to talk about it. So why all this, top secret garbage and excuses for, oh, I know a secret, but I can't tell you it, but it's in the book, so buy the book.
Why is it delicate?
Described in here look primitive.
Why is it delicate? Why is this topic that the United States government has a UFO in its possession and we've been reverse engineering it? You've admitted it. Why is it delicate?
The details. I'm old school. I won't use the term adversary, competitor as the way we describe. We are surrounded, maybe not surrounded, but hopefully not so.
So it could have been adversarial
by our
technology.
enemies. And our enemies, you can be sure they're listening to this show right now.
Oh, sure.
You can be sure that they were monitoring.
The Chinese government is monitoring to get, top secret information. Oh, God.
AAWSAP. You can be sure that perhaps they had employees, hopefully not in GIA, but in the contractor part, that were giving out information. I know that. So the thing is we can't say anything more than what we've been approved to say. And there's insight to this, but I want to.
Well, he could have asked he could have put details in the release. He didn't. Why?
I want to shift it just slightly, but it shows my point. Skinwalkers at the Pentagon and Initial Revelations, if I might use the shorter title on this new book.
Yeah, he's got to plug both books. Buy them both
in it, but has some interesting doors that have
in other words,
been
breadcrumbs
mentioned.
Where have we heard that before?
Why was this program started? 2, why was this program ended? And we've raised this partially in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Did it end? Also, we had a chapter in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon where we met with a high-level Brazilian official at a meeting, started introducing some of our cohorts, and no one ever asked us, why did you have that meeting? What was so important about that meeting? There's a lot of material in there that, as Kit Green, Dr. Kit Green, one of our consultants on the AAWSAP program, said, read between the lines. That applies
Read
both
between
to
the lines.
Skinwalkers at the Pentagon and Initial Revelations. Read between the lines. Now,
so there's more information I have. He's placing himself as an information source of secret information. Just buy my books and you'll get the secret information. But he can't talk about it. Where have we heard this before? This song and dance.
You may come to the wrong conclusions, and I can tell you on the topics I just read.
UFO Shane says this is literally just a straight grift.
Answers.
Yeah, buy the book.
Okay, so
grift.
Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
Go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
So why? Why did you're asking, one big question people should ask is, why was the UFO program started? Maybe you can't tell the full story, but give us a hint. Why was the UFO program started? You said that's important.
I agree, Louis. There's a lot of things in the black budget.
Without documenting more and getting approval.
I mean, can I assume?
I just can't do that. I know, Jeremy, you and I have met previously several times, and you want the bottom line, but the bottom line may not, let me just give you, the bottom line may not be what you anticipate. In other words, there may
enemies.
be no bottom line.
Sure.
There may be multiple
enemies can't buy his book. Yeah.
And
you're right.
We've got a lot of work. If Arrow
the Chinese
is going
bought
to move forward,
10,000 copies.
They've got a lot more work to do.
Why? One of the questions that you posed to us just now was, why was the program started? Okay, you can't answer that. But another question you're saying people should ask is, why did you do all the defense intelligence reference documents? So can you answer that? Why did you do all those defense intelligence reference documents?
And the answer is no. I can't answer that, because that would be an answer that would just floor people.
Really?
Yes. The real answer. And by the way, I don't know whether there's ever been real criticism. There kind of has, by the nature of some of these talks.
And by the way, I'm fine with people taking digs at me, you know, but you know, have some of your own work to compare with mine before you come here and you're critical of mine. Let me see your show. Oh, that's right, I can't, because you sit on the sidelines and you're a bitch, right? Little bitch. All right.
Topics. We solicited the input for the topics for the 38 papers from Air Force Intelligence, CIA,
he has all the proof in this
Naval Intelligence,
yeah,
and Ground Intelligence. That
and is going to buy.
Those were the topics they chose to do, but they were completely legitimate at the time. And by the way, they're pretty close to state of the art right now.
Okay, so
that's one thing I would like to say about the timeliness of our program, or the timelessness. If this program, AAWSAP, you know, the physics would have been different back in the 50s and 60s.
I'm trying to have control.
Or if this was being done
that's right.
in the 2070s and 80s.
Yes.
What is being covered in this book, and what Arrow has been mandated to do by Congress, is timeless. In other words, you will be doing the same thing, regardless of the time frame. It's just
Randy?
that I'm sure configurations. If there are any further configurations there could possibly be of craft,
yes,
will be available in the future. But you know, triangles have been seen back into the 60s. And I'm sure will be seen into the future. Flying saucers, even craft that look like something from the Jetsons have been seen. You know, the flying saucer with the big bubble on it with occupants. That's all the same. In other words, if you look at AAWSAP and study what's in AAWSAP and try to answer some of the questions,
I agree.
You're not wasting your time. In other words, there's a timelessness to it.
All right, so we hit some technical problems, which is not strange for us. But we got George Knapp here on the phone, and we're just getting
I love that. G-Man.
Back down to the point. So George, I was asking you, help me. This guy Lakatsky, he's being a little dodgy as a reporter. I can't nail him down. We're talking about why our government would, or why he can't talk more about this. So Jeremy, I don't know. Help me out, George.
Jeremy.
Well, Jim Lakatsky is the Rock of Gibraltar. He's not going to answer that question for you. If he's decided not to answer it, he's not going to. I was thinking maybe there's another way in. We could go around the corner here. Let's start with Column. Column, this book is so much different from Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, and that was not an idle decision. Jim had used the phrase earlier in this conversation, nuts and bolts, which you will recall you and I were.
Yeah, so few people have actually claimed to have been inside a UFO. And here, look, you know, this is where it gets stupid to me, right? Like, okay, so you were inside a UFO. Where was the UFO from? Oh, I can't tell you. Okay. Well, do you think it was alien? Oh, I can't tell you. It was an unknown craft. There's always these muddy waters. It's like they give themselves an out. And we don't know what he could have been standing on an advanced drone platform and said he was inside a UFO. It could be adversarial technology, something from the Chinese or the Russians, some kind of advanced drone platform. It could have been anything. But we get this conflation of unknown craft with it must be aliens, right? It's got to be, it had to be an alien spacecraft. Great, you were inside a UFO. Tell us about it. Well, I can't. It's security. No, come on, man. This is the game that they all play. And they want to portray themselves as, you know, being in on all the secrets without actually sharing any real secrets.
We're kicking around ideas for a possible title for the book, and Nuts and Bolts came up, but we didn't think that having the word nuts in a UFO book was a good idea. Why, you know, the point is, you know, that first Skinwalkers at the Pentagon had a lot of weird stuff. And people think, well, maybe we made a mistake by including all those stories of strange paranormal type events that were highly criticized. But in fact, that was part of the focus of AAWSAP. Why this different approach this time? What distinction is being made here?
Well, we needed 2 books to sell.
The critical part of AAWSAP that we tried to convey in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon was that there were 2 fundamental parallel tracks that AAWSAP ran on. The first one was the examination of UFO performance.
Yeah, I agree, Corey.
You know, the UFO performance part was getting all of the data from eyewitnesses plus deploying sensors into the field in order to gather data on the performance of UFOs. That was track number 1. And track number 2 was what effects do UFOs have on humans?
Yeah,
that was a parallel track.
We get the Havana syndrome claims without actual scientific studies or evidence to back up the claims.
From the get-go, AAWSAP decided unambiguously to run both tracks in parallel. Skinwalkers at the Pentagon focused a lot of its reporting on the second part, which is the effects of UFOs on humans. So that, you know, to summarize that book, we looked at a variety of effects on humans.
And I gotta love George Knapp, like hawking and promoting his own book with these government clowns. I love it.
That included medical effects. We documented several medical effects, pathological effects, physiological effects. You know, people having weird metallic tastes in their mouth, sometimes hair loss, and a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, none of that proves aliens, though. Like,
we documented psychological effects, and then we also
documented. They wrote things down. So that's all they got is written down stories.
You know, effects on humans were reported in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. A lot of the pushback that we got from that book was that these guys were using taxpayers' money to camp out on Skinwalker Ranch and, you know, basically document dogmen, dino beavers, and a whole bunch of other
At least he's going to address my concern.
Whereas, in fact, that was only a very minor part of the entire AAWSAP program.
Well, then why don't we hear about the rest of it?
The second book is to balance that whole thing out. And so we unambiguous.
And let's be clear, the purpose of the second book is that the first book sold really well, and we want another shot of money.
Focus the reporting.
They could have put it all in one book. Look how thin both of those books are.
On initial revelations, the second book, on the nuts and bolts aspects of the UFO phenomenon, which was half of what AAWSAP was doing. So the purpose of the second book is really to look at
is to cash in again
the UFO performance angle, strictly from only the performance angle. You know, things like, you know, lift, propulsion, power generation.
Yeah, and you would think that they have some kind of sensor data that are going to prove claims being made, like these things defy the laws of physics. I have yet to see any sensor data that confirms any craft flying in Earth's sky defies the laws of physics. But they all love saying that, right?
Spatial temporal translation, configuration, a whole bunch of other aspects of UFO performance that is translatable into theoretical physics, eventually into engineering. So that's really the second book.
In the only other interview you've given about AAWSAP, you had said that the DIRDs essentially established a baseline for analysis. It's a baseline of here's what humans are known to be able to do. here's what we think humans will be able to do in 50 years. And when we look at UFO cases that you do in great detail in this book, it is
I love how he said, you do in great detail. You're an author of the book.
clear that this is technology that we certainly didn't have 50 years ago.
This is technology we don't have. That's a pretty broad brush statement to make. Can he prove that statement? Of course not.
That we don't have now, and it's not even clear we will have 50 years hence. This is a nuts and bolts UFO book, and it was a nuts and bolts UFO program, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely correct.
Except for the dino beavers and werewolves.
The thing is
and the poltergeists.
Again, on the internet, because anything can be said on the internet, it seems, factual or not. Well,
the G stands for grifter. Gotcha.
DIA knew what it was getting into in regard to both aspects that column.
I think they're all full of
described
Kimmy
to
77.
And let me end my statement right here. We had no choice but to pursue both aspects.
You're absolutely right. Steve Long is pointing out something.
Why?
I said I ended it.
We got no real data. What we got is speculative reports using theoretical physics, talking about wormholes and, bending space-time and things like that. And who did that? Eric Davis, right? Steve Long. So, they talk like they collected all this data. Where's the data then? They didn't collect shit except spooky stories.
Oh, come on, man.
Again. Hey, let me tell you, Jeremy, you cannot compete with some of the offers that have been made to me. I'm joking now, but this is factual. Airplane tickets, speaker presentations, car rentals.
Yeah, everybody wants to grift with this guy because he pretends to have all these government secrets about UFOs. So they want to get him at their events and grift with him.
Hotel rooms, pay for, you just can't compete with all that. I mean,
I can throw in a steak dinner.
Oh, they've already done that.
Dinner.
But you know what they always
Look,
want?
man, listen. I am way more handsome and way more charming than any of those other people asking you to spill.
The thing is, at the bottom line is what they all want. And then when I hear the phone of the being clunked on me is when I say, I cannot go beyond what is stated in the book. Now, of course.
Yeah, of course. He can't go beyond what is stated in the book. We're going to go to 46, where he begins to spill some tea that I think is important.
So
let's go back.
He talked about holding locations of UFOs, which you've already admitted that we've got them and we've been exploiting them. So he's talking about things that are very tangible and physical. People that worked on UFOs, those programs, that part of the 40 witnesses.
This is where Corbell is talking about Dave Grusch, and Lakatsky is going to throw Grusch under the bus.
That came forward to him are people that actually worked on these legacy UFO programs, which he says exist. We've talked about it. All the four of us have talked about it. We know UFO legacy programs have existed, whether or not you can talk about it or not. We know that they existed. So just to give,
how do we know they existed? Because there's stories that they existed. We don't know. There's no verifiable proof or evidence of any kind of alien crash retrieval or back engineering program, unless you count a convicted pimp, fake scientist, liar that Jeremy Corbell made a lot of money with.
Looking at what he said, he's
I don't think
saying
he's
that
a
there are
credible
individuals with direct firsthand experience. It's not opinions they could be wrong or right about. It's whether or not these programs existed, and we have these craft we've been working on.
Okay, and I have seen in multiple cases what I would can only call forged documents. So,
okay, so there's another thing we should talk about. So what do you mean by that? There have been forged documents.
They're documents talking about programs.
Yeah, and I think he's talking about the Wilson Davis notes here.
That are not legitimate documents.
Within intelligence servers, within your industry, there are forged documents inside of our government's, or what are you talking about? Just on the internet? Or are you talking about
both?
Really? What? How could that happen? Forged documents with inside
Well, you know,
our intelligence agency server.
They even covered this on an X-Files episode. Every
Oh, so it must be
special
real.
access program has a counterintelligence officer. That's their job. You know, it's their job. So, you know, you might say, well, wait a minute, Jim and Colin are counterintelligence officers. No, we're not. You know, there's no reason to be. But if you're in a program, you have that person either assigned to you or you bring him in.
Yeah, and who's a counterintelligence guy? Lou Elizondo.
And there's a source of forged documents right there. Go have you read.
Counterintelligence officers, there's a source of forged documents right there. I believe he's talking about Lou Elizondo. I freely admit that's speculation on my part, but I think that, yeah.
Your listeners and readers go back through the UFO history, and you'll see fingers pointing to others that, again, I won't name them, that, hey, this is all fabricated. And
yeah, like Rick Doty. That's who you're talking about, maybe.
Can't say.
Oh, hold on. Here's George. Here's George. He's going to say something. Go ahead, George.
Which counterintelligence officer wrote this in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon on page 152?
Okay, wait a minute.
He'll read it.
152.
Yeah. Sasha Mover and Jim Bell began knocking on doors beyond DHS to connect with, quote, the keepers of the secrets in at least 2 other agencies. In these meetings, which took place July 2011, Sasha, Jim, and colleagues were treated rudely and harshly. Bell and Mover were repeatedly told no and hell no. This left them.
They were trying to get access to the
advanced
programs and weren't
technology
able to.
Was sequestered under government supervision at aerospace contractor facilities. As a result, the DHS facilities, the Department of Homeland Security officials, became very hesitant and even fearful of moving forward. Perhaps these two only belatedly realized the unique, game-changing, and earth-shattering nature of the biggest secret ever kept by the United States.
Yeah, just because you're denied access to it doesn't mean, you know, again, they jump like, oh, I was denied access. It must mean they got the aliens.
Is that counterintelligence stuff, or did you two guys write that?
Well, we wrote that and it was approved by the Pentagon and by DHS. But the thing is that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about plain out and out forged documents that are shown as proof of something. And
I wonder, I really wish you would name
too,
and
that their documents. I want to emphasize something I said on my first and only interview. It was a closed program. It operated very similar to a SAP. The director,
he was a misinfo agent.
The director of analysis, and my office
more or less,
chief,
allegedly.
And of course, division chief, knew about this program. No one else did. Now, I was also protected by the stovepipe nature of that.
Go with the grift, says UFO Shane.
Address political type questions. I was insulated, but they were too. There was no one else. People in the surrounding cubicles didn't know. Nothing was purposely being hid. It was a closed stovepipe system, and it needed to be. It needed to be operated that way. What I'm talking about here is documents that have risen up.
Why not
in the meantime that are out and out forgeries? Again, I'm not saying why this was done. I'm saying officially.
Hey, good to see you, Digital Vortex. Glad you're back. Welcome.
It probably wasn't a very good one, but the thing is there's phony material out there.
Then tell us what is phony. Then
we have no reason to do that, and that's why. You know, we were questioned in the review of Skinwalkers at the Pentagon.
He did say that, or something like that, right?
Why? Because we have real references. Whether or not, people can see that because of all the material that's the proprietary information in those references is another situation. But the thing is we have our
yes, him and
references.
Stratton are on
And
the
they're not
case as wise
fabrications,
monkey.
they
Yes,
exist, and
absolutely.
they exist both in and outside of DIA.
Yeah, it's not really a secret if they said he could put it in his book. I agree.
Mass, during that period, you confronted the keepers of the secrets. You were on the trail of what the keepers of the secrets have. The biggest secret in the history of the U.S. government is how we described it in that book. What are we talking? We're not talking about bits and pieces of metal here, are we? Your crew, your team, AAWSAP, was on the trail of that stuff, right? I mean, and are we wrong about that? Is that counterintelligence, or did you come to believe that we really do have this stuff?
Well, I can tell you, George, that as you know, those events in 2011 occurred after the AAWSAP program was shut down. So AAWSAP was officially sort of stopped in terms of funding being received.
Well documented.
In September of 2010. By December of 2010, we had a 90-day no-cost extension. And at that stage, the program was over. There was a lot of interaction between different departments and different agencies subsequent to that regarding additional funding. What you are referencing in the Skinwalkers at the Pentagon occurred after the AAWSAP program officially was terminated. And it involved a lot of negotiation and back and forth between different organizations. One of those organizations that we worked with was DHS, as it says in that book. And those elements within DHS did their own version of due diligence. And that's what's being referenced in that book.
I think what George is getting at is that you guys have already explained that you have gone off, after the people that are guarding these secrets, that you did find that they're storing this stuff somewhere else. I mean, is that, George, is that your point? Is that they've already said?
I think that they believe that those goods exist somewhere hidden in the bowels of defense contractors by the elements of the U.S. government. They think they're real. The period that Colum is describing is when
real.
Jim and Colum and some of their colleagues were trying to find a new home for a version of AAWSAP. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So on one hand, you're telling me there's disinfo, even within intelligence servers and systems where you can cover up your programs, but you're also telling me UFOs, our government knows, that's why you did all those DIRDs, and that we have them. We've been inside of one of them. You've admitted it now. I don't know that anybody from the DIA, from your level of the intelligence agency running the UFO program, has ever admitted publicly before that we have a UFO and have been inside of it, have been able to get inside of it. That's a big deal, you guys.
Well, that still doesn't address George's question.
Yeah, so big deal.
You're not addressing
inside a UFO, but he can't answer any questions about it.
Okay.
Kinda, you're dodgy.
No. Maybe we take a different tack and try to talk about the book in a general term and try to circle back. We've mentioned about Arrow a couple of times. Jim, you and Colum have both said in a limited number of interviews that you believe that the data warehouse that was established by AAWSAP, the biggest UFO data warehouse in existence that we know
Where
of,
is that data then?
Now,
the biggest data warehouse? There's no data.
Used by U.S. government agencies. Is Arrow one of those agencies? And if it is, have they reached out to you and Colum, or can you say?
Because Arrow, using the database that you guys created from AAWSAP, the largest UFO database in history, Jacques Vallée worked a lot with you guys on that. Is Arrow
the largest database in history, but we can't show it to you. There's no data. There's no data points. There's no data. There's stories and theoretical physics papers. That's it. That's what we got for $22 million.
That. Have they reached out to you about that?
On that particular issue, no, they have not. But I know that the originator of, the lead of the UAP task force from whence Arrow evolved did have it. So as for
So big deal. They're sharing information, but why can't we see? Oh, they have the largest database of UFO data. Why can't we see it then?
using it, it's more of a tool to get broad trends. I mean, obviously, my broad trend observation is every car on the road is different. If you look at the UFO database,
I agree, William.
in
Lerner.
other words,
absolutely.
models don't. Then, if multiple craft are seen at the same time, yes, they can be duplicates. But in general, everything is different. That's something you use the database for. Also,
Narrative
what do you make
guarding.
of that? What do you make of that in general? I'm sorry, but
I
what do you
don't
make of that?
know
That every
to
UFO
make of that. I mean, there's some indications of what I could say, but I won't say yet. I think that's odd.
I won't say. I know all these secrets, but I can't tell you any of them. We're going to call it there. We made it about an hour in, and we have one panel member so far standing by. We had another panel member come and then say they would be back. So in the link, there is a link pinned into the live chat. We only ask you that you wear headphones, be respectful of the other panel members and participants. We're going to begin with UFO Shane, who popped his cherry today. He finally did a YouTube live stream. UFO Shane is here. And
what's up, man?
Welcome. So,
you see my house behind me, bro?
Yeah. You know what's funny is that, of course, is a. I think that's a great background, but I won't use it because it comes with StreamYard. So interesting. And we've got Jess is here. Welcome, Jess. Go kick rocks on Twitter.
What up? I'm not showing video because, man, I told you I'm a mess today. So, but I'm here. Let's talk about it.
You never show.
No, I don't. You know why? Because like I've had a whole lot of creepy ass people.
Well, I don't blame you.
Years, I've learned that.
Female, I don't blame you. You know, like
I got chicks every time I go live on Steven's show. Just chicks just hit me up all day. It sucks, man.
Yeah, my constant.
Just constant.
So, Jess, you know a lot about all of this, and I said to you earlier on Twitter, I said, please come on and help me break some of this down and explain this, because there's two sides to every story, and the grifter squad side isn't this great? We had this secret government project, and you know a lot about this and the whole timeline, and you have said that this is a long con game. Tell us what you think about them and Knapp grifting with these two government wackadoos. Right?
Well, the beautiful thing about it is you can go back for the past 6, 7, 8 years, and you can see there is a divide. You got two different camps. I mean, there's many more camps if you want to break them down into sub camps or sub cliques or whatever you want to call them. But you basically have the Bigelow, Kelleher, Lakatsky, non-disclosure type guys who are holding on. And, you know, these are the guys who have been here from the beginning. These are the guys who invested their money, who started up the programs, who ran the programs. And then all of a sudden, 2017 comes along, you have Elizondo who wants to break out of it. And this always kind of like broke my brain a little bit, because I was like, okay, you have Elizondo and Mellon and the TTSA crew, they're all of a sudden coming out and they're exposing the Lakatsky program, right? The AAWSAP program. Elizondo essentially exposed a program that they were trying to keep under wraps, right? They tried their damnedest. Like, they wouldn't even let anybody within the Pentagon know what they were working on. And then here comes Elizondo, and he's like, hey, look, I've been heading up TTSA or AATIP, and I was the director of AATIP, and he blew the doors open for AAWSAP. And there's always been this sort of animosity between those two groups. And the darndest thing is, you see Corbell and you see Knapp always playing the middle ground in between the two camps, between the AAWSAP camp
Because
and the
they want to
AATIP.
grift off of both camps. Yes.
Exactly.
But yes,
So,
there is some bad blood between Lukatsky's faction, I guess, and Elizondo. I never thought about that, but yeah, he did kind of spill the beans on it. But then he kind of pretended that he was in charge of it, and I think Lukatsky got pissed about that because Elizondo wasn't in charge of anything. By then, the program was over, the funding was gone, and Elizondo just sort of appointed himself the director of a make-believe UFO program.
right. If you read Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, right, they called Elizondo out saying, and Knapp and others, I'm just going to be very blunt right here. Throughout, the past 5-6 years, they've called Elizondo out several times and saying, it was basically something he did on his off time and a hobby.
Yeah.
And they've said that over and over again. And if you listen to what Lukatsky said,
it was an activity, not a program. So
they doubled down on that during this second book. And they said, AAWSAP was the program. And then on the other side, this is what doesn't make sense to me. You have Elizondo, who come out, about a year and a half ago and said, the thing about it is AAWSAP, they were allocated $22 million. They got the first $10 million and then for the first year, and then the second year, that $12 million it was appropriated to a different program within the Pentagon because they didn't think that it was necessarily, worth putting it towards AAWSAP. Travis Taylor came back out and back that statement up. So you have Taylor and you have Elizondo both saying that $12 million never went to AAWSAP. So when they're coming out and they're saying, hey, AAWSAP was a $22 million program. Well, no, because $12 million didn't go to AAWSAP. So it was really a $10 million program. And
yeah, but 22
based on what
better.
they're saying.
Yeah. And the one thing I will forgive all these wackadoos for, and welcome Thin Lizzy Borden. The one thing that I will give these guys a pass on is that I worked for a scientist at Drexel University, and they are funding whores. Like they want, because basically if you're a scientist and you get funded like this, it's like you can just do whatever you want with your time.
Job security.
Yeah, you look into whatever you're going to look into. Like the scientist I work for, he's like, he was getting huge contracts with the government for things that I'm not allowed to talk about, but it had to do with surveillance. I could say it had to do with surveillance platforms, and he was a robotics guy. So, but anyway, like,
well, he
was a funding whore. Like he would do anything to get that kind of funding because then all his projects that he wants to do, he's got all kinds of paychecks for,
Well, in the Nutty Professor, like the doctor wanted funding so bad, I mean, it's an extreme version.
Well,
of
if you ever worked in contracting, like the contracts, the misappropriated funds, like people borrow from one project and allocate those funds to another project. It happens across the board, every industry. So they move money around and they make it look like it went to one job, but it went to another job. Like that's just standard across like everything.
But I still want to know, because I've seen some of those reports and I've seen this wackadoo report from Eric Davis. Like, I don't understand how they went through even $10 million. It's like they just went to the ranch a few times.
They were never there, at least in the 8 years Chris Bartell worked there. And I had Chris send me all the photos from the main ranch house that they stayed in. He sent me the receipt they had for how they got $70 a week for two guys, for two guards out there for 8 years. When he sent me pictures, all the furniture in the house was all hotel furniture. Bigelow-owned hotels. Just the worst hotel furniture you could ever see. It was very bare bones. And he was making like, I think $45,000 a year, maybe less, to be out there for 2 weeks at a time. He'd go home for a week and then be back out there for 2 weeks at a time. Like I said, they had $70, and then they were never there. So when Chris saw that big-ass wolf jump out of the ditch in front of him and his partner, and then they felt like stalking him all that night, like I've said before, he called Colm Kellier and said, hey, man, we just saw like a huge wolf just here's pictures of the prints, everything. Colin was like, oh man, that's crazy. Call me again if it happens. And he's making $400,000 a year doing nothing. And they never came out to the ranch. Bigelow never came out to the ranch. It was just him and one other dude and a bunch of dogs out there just guarding this place for years. So, you tell me. I don't. That is the last few years of Skinwalker, but yeah, crazy. And I mean, the worst hotel furniture you've ever seen. It had been there since 97, 96 when he bought it. You could just tell.
What's the color scheme, though?
Do what?
What was the color scheme, though?
The color scheme?
Yeah, of the hotel.
Yeah, UFO Shane, you're cracking up. I don't know why.
Oh, is it still cracking up?
Yeah.
They don't want that. They don't want the information getting out. What color?
Well, the ranch is where it all started, and it ties back to his interview. Lakatsky originally, he's only done like 3, maybe 4 interviews, and originally he said that the whole story was he read the book, and the first book that George Knapp and Colm Kelleher put out was like Skinwalker, so I can't even remember the name. It was before Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. It was something chasing Skinwalkers or something. He read the book, and then he went out to the ranch, and the ranch hand was there. I think Bigelow was there and a couple of other people, and that's when he saw the tubular bells, and he said 12 crucifixes flew off the walls. And when he went back, that's when he signed the contract for AAWSAP. So if you listen to this interview, he said, I can't really tell you what started, why I, give the green light.
Yeah,
But
he doesn't even know what's in his own book. It's in his own book.
He already said what gave the green light in an interview. It wasn't even a book. The green light was he had crucifixes and stuff flying in his face, and the tubular bells, like that. This apparition that he saw in the kitchen at the ranch hands, their little homestead there that he went to visit.
Shane dropped out. I don't know why. Maybe he was having an internet issue. It sounded all crackly to me.
The microphone. He's probably trying to troubleshoot. I would assume.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the first discrepancy. The first red flag of this whole interview was that he can't get his story straight on how it started.
Well, aren't you sick of the I had this incredible experience and I put it in my book, but I can't tell you about it. He basically admitted on this show, okay, I stood inside a UFO, but I can't talk about it. That's a bit ridiculous. It's like a literal grift. I talk about it in my book, but I can't talk about it here. It's so stupid. And we've seen this time and time again with these people who love to pretend that they have all this secret knowledge so that people buy their shit, but they don't want to spill the beans.
Yeah, it's an author's trick also, where it's you can find the answers in my book.
Well, Corbell actually kind of led those words on and made everybody believe, that Lakatsky had actually entered this UFO and entered the hull himself. But if you actually go back and re-listen to it, Lakatsky denies, or he doesn't really deny, but he just is really, really silent on the fact that he himself entered it. And he says, what's in the book? And in the book says that he was in a meeting at the Pentagon in 2011 discussing a UFO that somebody had entered and penetrated the hull and saw no means of propulsion or engine or air intakes or exhaust or anything. But he never actually says that he entered the hull. He never actually, he may have never actually even seen it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Corbell extrapolates and adds that in as if it's, fact, and he's not confirming that.
It could have been a secondhand story like all of Grusch's. It could have been something that somebody told him that, hey, I did this. I entered it. And he's discussing it at this meeting in 2011.
Isn't it suspicious, too, that he basically says, there's a lot of fraudulent documents out there, but he won't name which ones are fraudulent? It's like he's trying to smack down the competition, and he all but He all but threw Grusch under the bus as, being full of it and a victim of misinformation or counterintelligence without giving any actual details. And the Sixth Sense is here. 1 second here.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hey there.
Yeah. Hey, listen, before we get into anything, you left our Discord in a huff and you were very rude to many people.
I don't even like Discord anyways.
All right. But, I get shit when you join the panel because you were very nasty to everybody. And then you just come back like none of that happened. Like, isn't that, I don't want to be a drama queen, but you kind of left in a huff like a drama queen. And then you jump on our panels like.
Is that a problem? I mean, sure.
Well, I don't know what to do when you jump in the panel because then I get, why is he here? He said all this nasty shit.
They're conspiracy theorists themselves, the people that run the shit. They can like it, they can't, they can hate it. I don't care. Here it is, Stephen. I tried to tell you before, but you kept saying, "Oh, you're just making it into drama, and you're just going ahead and I don't want to make."
But do you realize that I don't have? But do you realize that I don't have an hour every day or every week to
It takes you about 2 seconds to do these things. I mean, and
to do what though? It's you guys get in these fights. This is what happens in the Discord. People argue constantly about their shit, and then they get me in the middle. Like, how dare you say this? And this person's like, and then I'm getting messages like, you got to do something about this. Like, what do I got to do? Like, just get along in the Discord. It's there for discussion. It's not,
You can't.
And be respectful of everybody else. Mm-hmm. Oh, see, there you go. There's one of your fans who says, do not let...
Because it's all conspiracy theory. Steven, that's not truth on your Discord. That's not truth. That's a bunch of bullshit is what it is. That's what bothers me.
Because you disagree with it, though. But people disagree with the stuff you post.
It's provably fake shit,
Well, people disagree with the stuff that you post as well, though. So who's the arbiter of truth in the Discord? Who's the arbiter of truth in that?
Obviously,
me. Everybody wants me to be like. I don't have time.
Democrats truly do.
You left the first time because people were posting memes you didn't like.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? They love eating the blood of. That's just the sickest shit I ever heard. I can't even believe. I can't even believe you support that shit. Yeah, it's free speech. It's free speech. They can believe whatever they want, sure. But that kind of crap, that sick shit. I mean, Stephen, I don't want to make this that kind of thing. And you know what? I can forget about those people. I'm here to listen to you. I'm not here to listen to those guys. I just think it's
fair enough. But I just wish everybody would get along and not put me in the middle of these disagreements and bickering and all that. Because I just don't have time, I just don't have the time for it. And I have strongly considered just deleting the Discord because every time these drama flares flare up, it's like everybody's arguing and sending me messages and I don't know what to do with this Discord. Just delete it. But it's good for the show because the viewers can all get together.
Here's the thing, because I have an opposing opinion. All of a sudden, I'm just the bad guy, and that's okay. That's okay.
It's how you are bringing it, about how you disagree.
That Democrats do.
Yeah, you wanted us to fact check the whole Discord and every post in it. That was the first time you left in a huff.
Come on.
Then I got all the messages, and then you left in a huff, and then you came back, and something triggered you again.
Your Discord is just a mess, and look who's running it. That's all I need. I mean, look who you had these people as admin. Do you believe that? That's the number one, the dumbest move anybody could ever make on Discord is admin somebody other than yourself.
Yeah, when we started it, I just didn't know how to work everything, and other people did. So, and we've since fixed that. Now there is no admin except me. So
I know, but look who you chose. The worst of the worst, in my opinion.
I think people get caught up in the infighting and drama when they should be focused on the main stuff that's going on. Nobody cares about the infighting. Knock it off.
We don't care.
Focus.
I don't
care about that stuff. Take some Adderall or something. Focus.
But it was the problem when you disagree about stuff, or you have proof that shows.
No, there's a way to disagree.
No, it's how you go about
disagreeing
with someone.
Yeah, you don't get so aggressive.
You can disagree all you want.
Now that's the other thing. Everybody wants me to side with them, and when they don't get their way,
I'm not asking for sides.
You wanted me to fact check an entire Discord and every post in it.
Because here it is, Steve. I'm trying to help you out if you don't notice. Trying to help you out in the way that, look, it's totally contradictory to what you say here. You're looking for truth. When you look over there, are you looking for the truth that Democrats do that kind of thing? And that's only one thing. I don't even want to say the other shit, but you can go read it for yourself if you want to take the time.
I don't think most of that stuff is there anymore. That was a long time ago. But
it was there all along.
And you know what? Another thing that annoys me with the Discord is that people post anti-Democrat stuff, and the Democrat people message me and bitch and cry and complain, and then people post anti-Republican stuff, and the Republican people come to me bitching and crying and complaining.
It's not about that.
We don't do politics. So if people are posting memes about Hillary Clinton drinking adrenochrome, I don't care. If people are posting memes about Trump, I don't care. I just don't care.
Look at the reality of it. Where's the proof? Do you have any proof? And I think here's another problem we have. Just the thought that somebody could actually believe that shit. I mean, and it's so
Dude, we had a flat earther in our Discord arguing with people, and we let them. Like, what are you gonna do?
They're stupid as hell, but
that's free speech. But let's get back to the topic at hand, at least, because this is very unimportant. Jess was on a roll explaining some of this stuff to us, so I'd like to go back to Jess to
let's go back
explain
to
some more of this. So we have the rift between the AATIP crowd and the AAWSAP crowd. But we were talking about how the whole secret agent thing, like, how do you feel about that, Jess? They all do this. Like, I know all this stuff, but I can't tell you. James Fox does it. Elizondo does it. Grusch is doing it. This guy's doing it. They all do it. Is it just they want us to believe that they have some secrets, so we buy their crap?
I mean, honestly, just on the side note, like the high school crap, people got to stop that, like across the board, like Twitter, Discord, Reddit, everything. Like, people need to focus a little bit and stop the infighting. I mean, my God, like, it gets so annoying if people would just focus on like the main people and what's going on and trying to decipher what the hell we're going through right now, because it's a huge movement. It's something's about to shift one way or another. So people need to just not worry about other people and just focus on the main topic at hand. And as far as what I think is going on with that, I don't know if you heard Bigelow's recent statements.
Yeah, I saw it on your Twitter. Yeah, he basically said that whoever has this information is never going to disclose it. That's what he says.
He come out basically and said, he was asked, hey, you have this material. You were part of this program. We know you have this warehouse. We know you have physical material along with your database. Are you ever going to bring that public? And he's like, nobody is. None of these contractors who have anything is going to bring it public. Congress be damned. It doesn't matter what laws are passed. It doesn't matter about the Schumer Amendment. It doesn't matter anything, because one, Congress is not going to prosecute. Congress, they're like basically your mom versus your dad. Your mom saying, hey, do your chores or you're not going to get, TV tonight, and then giving you TV. So that's basically what this is. So unless you offer up saying, hey, we are hiding all of this secret technology, they're not going to do anything, because they can't do anything. And when the technology comes into play, it does not necessarily have to be alien technology. It could be as simple as.
Don't you think that sometimes this is just black budget tech that they don't?
Absolutely. I mean, even the stuff that, like, look at Avi Loeb. Look at the stuff that he's doing, like from meteorites, like that he recovered. There could absolutely be stuff that falls to Earth that has elements in it and stuff that we don't know about, that they take it. That's literally from an unknown origin. And they take that stuff, they break it down, and they do all of this research into it. They can decide to use it for, radiation shielding or some type of
weapon systems.
Yeah.
Armor
and
plating.
Or or if the government has recovered that and given it out to certain programs, like you heard Lakatsky said earlier about, only minority-owned businesses were solicited first for the AAWSAP program, which means small businesses. So they could have broken it up and given it to certain different contractors like Bigelow. He could have a whole horde of, tech, because he was, friends with whoever who gave him this material, and he could be sitting on a pile of this stuff that could be used for other systems, or it could be like a downed drone or a downed satellite from China or Russia or one of our adversaries that has technology that we do not have the capabilities of, that they recovered, and they were able to use it for something that we recovered. So that's what the Schumer amendment is trying to basically do, a sweep and confiscate all of those little bits and pieces of technology and take it in. So Bigelow is really, really against that. And Lakatsky worked really, really hand in hand close with Bigelow. And he come out basically 2 months after Bigelow said that and said, nobody's going to give you this information because they have used their private funds, they've used their stockholder funds, and they've invested a lot of time and money trying to develop with research and development into this stuff and trying to use it and apply it to different, weapon systems or what have you. They're not going to just give it over because Biden signs a bill, in December. It doesn't matter. It's going to be tied up in court.
It's like the JFK. They literally passed a law that they had to release all the JFK documents, and then when the deadline comes, they just punt it. Or Trump punted it, and famously, he said to Judge Napolitano, because he had promised to release everything. It was one of his campaign promises. Is one of his supporters, Judge Napolitano, called him on it and said, "What are you doing? You can't withhold. You said you were going to." Trump famously said, if you knew what was in those documents, you could never, ever release them. And now Biden, again, it's a law. They have to give us these documents. Trump punted it. And now Biden essentially said they're never going to release the rest. They don't care about it. So they're breaking the law, not releasing these documents. So any of this legislative nonsense that people are so excited about, like, oh, it's going to be a law. They have to tell us the truth about UFOs. Good luck with that. They don't.
That's
have to do
absolutely 100% false. They do not have to release anything, and they have so much red tape and loopholes into the Schumer amendment that they basically made it to where they could tie any type of disclosure up for the next 100,000, however many years have you, without releasing anything. But now they can do it legally. Once that's signed, they can do it legally.
Yeah. I love how they're allowed to just grab anything they want that people have, even in private corporate hands, right? Like, according to the way I read it, like, you just
under the eminent domain,
we're gonna grab it. If you don't give it to us, we're just gonna come and take it. It's crazy.
Absolutely. And that's why Sheehan, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, he come out and he said, Sheehan, he's a lawyer. Like, I don't trust a lot of his opinions when it comes to some of his more woo or outlandish, like, UFO claims.
He's a true believer.
He's an attorney by law, and I trust him to be able to read this legislation, and he read it exactly the way that I interpreted it. And he said, hey, this is basically a Trojan horse. Like, it comes, and all of these true believers are coming out here, like, rallying against it, telling their congressmen, call your Congress reps, tell them, pass this amendment. But this amendment, it's a Trojan horse. It's going to tie everything up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And the other issue is, like, I don't like to give the government any more power than they already have over private citizens and private corporations. Like, they already have too much power, but they always want more. And this is just another power grab. Now they can.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we sign so much power. I mean, it's unfathomable the amount of power that we are signing over to the government. Like, even if tomorrow an alien spaceship landed in my backyard, after this is signed, we're signing all of our rights over.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be something right now that's an issue. It could be a future issue. We're signing everything over.
It's definitely going to be an issue going forward, and I hate to see what they're going to do with that level of power that they're giving themselves. You know, I don't think people understand the implications of that, especially like you said, the cheerleaders that think this is great. We're going to get disclosure. No, we're not.
Well, you know why that happened was Schumer come out. He's a smart man. He come out, and the way that he's playing to everybody's emotions is, Harry Reid, he was a good friend of mine, and I'm going to do this for him. I'm just going to push this amendment forward for him to try to get some UFO stuff. No, if you back up 2 months before that, we were shooting stuff down over Carolina and Alaska and North America and Canada.
You're right.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of dumb people in the United States that are just looking for someone to tell them what to say or what to think. And so it's like they are just looking at disclosure to be this magical pill almost. But it's like, I don't need disclosure to happen. I have my own experience, and X, Y, and Z. But yeah, there's a lot of people that just need to be told by the government what to think, I guess.
Totally agree with you. You know what I think that, when it comes to like Knapp and Corbell and that failed guitarist and stuff, it's all a pissing contest. Who can pull the biggest scam ever? And I think that's just disturbing, because that's why every time I see Doorbell laugh, or actually all of them laugh in that video, I'm saying to myself, they're smiling in your face and they're sticking their hand in your back pocket. I mean, it's just so horrible. And I do agree with that I think that, it's almost a desperation thing. I need to believe in something, in this or something that, well, I mean, I can't tell you from firsthand experience that I know exactly how that feels, but I can sympathize with, okay, all right, you need something. Okay, maybe you should try this over here where it's actually provable stuff.
Well, for actual kind of actual provable stuff, I have a friend. He goes by the name Hoodoo Tall, but he has helped out at Bradshaw Ranch in Arizona, and they've caught weird anomalies, orbs, lights in the sky.
They actually have more evidence than Skinwalker gets.
Yes,
from
exactly.
What I've seen.
And my friend has a free documentary on YouTube, and it actually has Ben and Joe from the UFO Garage in it when they were out at the ranch. But it's like, things happen on other locations. This one, the Skinwalker Ranch isn't the first of its kind. It's not, this brand spanking new,
no, a paranormal
before
hotspot.
seen happening thing. It's like the people that want to think that USOs are just happening right now that have just currently, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely been paranormal hotspots, especially in the Midwest, for a long time. You're right; it's nothing new. But the cash in and the sensational machine behind cashing in on this stuff is interesting. And I am aware that besides Skinwalker, there are other ranches in the area that are, in my opinion, they're trying to cash in on the Skinwalker fame. With that Frog Ranch and some
the Green Frog Ranch.
Yeah, they're all trying to let's sell our story, because these guys made millions, so we can too.
Haven't you noticed that though? Like people that have huge follower counts and stuff, everything that is supposedly on the scene is super sensationalizing, the music and everything behind it. But then when you go watch the average Joe video of the site itself, you get a whole different perspective, or more real.
What's funny to me is like, everybody talks about Montauk, and it was this, even in my mind, like I don't want to say I was like a full-on true believer, but I read the books and I was like, wow, this is incredible. I'm going to go visit there, because it wasn't that far from of a drive. And it's been a long time, so I can admit that I trespassed. I jumped the fence. I was so underwhelmed. I'm like, there's nothing here but like a couple abandoned buildings and nonsense. There's no underground anything here. And I mean, I spent all day there.
Did you look underground though?
I walked like the whole fenced in area looking for vents, entrances. There's nothing but abandoned buildings there. And I don't believe there's anything underground there. Maybe a basement of one of those wrecked out buildings, but it was just underwhelming. So yeah, the reality versus the fictionalized or sensationalized stories surrounding these places. But then again, I went to Kecksburg and felt the same way when I saw the crash site there. I was like, it's a bunch of woods, The same thing with Montauk. So yeah, I guess the reality is a bit of you get underwhelmed. You're like,
Mm-hmm. Well, when I was younger, I always, heard of like the Montauk monster, but then the American Horror Story. I think one of the more recent seasons had a season themed around that. So, but I always remember that little cryptid looking thing, up on like the History Channel, like the Montauk monster, and its little picture of it on the shore beach.
You know what? That ain't the first time that. Oh, go ahead, Jess.
I was just going to say the only thing I remember from Montauk is about the MK Ultra experiments. That I do believe that there could be some shady government experiments that have gone on.
There's mind control
kids being
experiments for
abducted.
sure, but these guys took it a little too far. I mean, Montauk. The whole thing started like semi-believable, but then it got more and more ridiculous. And the one guy, they were going to, bring back Jesus, and this guy was Jesus reincarnated, and he's time traveling, and all this. It's just gets ridiculous.
I think there's a little bit of truth to everything, though.
Yeah.
Like, and I think the government does some shady stuff sometimes, and I think that there may have been some underlying, ops that went on that, developed into this whole lore.
My favorite is Operation Midnight Climax. Nobody knows what that is. That's when the government and a bunch of whores dosed everybody with LSD and watched them. They would get these hookers and they would get these guys and just dose them like crazy with the LSD.
I've heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that story not too long ago, but I guess I didn't know what it was called, because then I just was like,
our government did that.
Thinking about
they conspired to drug people with a hallucinogenic drug with hookers, and who's going to rat on them? Like, you're going to go home and tell your wife, I was banging this whore and I got dosed. So interesting that our government does that. And the other thing is about all the government mind control experiments. We only got a very small portion of that paperwork. They destroyed it all.
But isn't that what these people rely on? The government's never going to be honest with you. They're never going to be fully straightforward with you. They totally rely on that. That's that's their whole being.
That's part of the reason the UFO grift works, because people believe that the government lies. People believe that the government covers things up. So it's believable that it's both conceivable and believable that our government, who has lied to us about so many things and covered up so many things and kept so many things secret from us peasants, would keep this secret from us peasants, right?
Well, you hear Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee. He's always talking about, the honeypot scenario. And he wholeheartedly, he said it like I can count 5 or 6 times, where he said members of Congress, they've been taken to foreign countries and they've been caught in, nefarious situations where could get themselves into trouble, like they're introduced to hookers or stuff.
The problem is that he's absolutely right, because there is ample and supportive evidence of honeypots run by foreign governments where they get these women to be basically sex spies. It's happened. It's
Well, and
happened.
That's the
Absolutely.
funny part about the stuff that he says is because you hear that and you know that's absolutely going on, but then he says other stuff where you know that he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So it's like, wait a minute, you're like, he's got like half of the story. He's half cocked here.
That's not good. It's best to be full cocked at all times, Jess.
Hey, did you notice that Knapp brought up the New York Times again, or that article that was written, or the artist ended up bringing it up? Now, if you look, you see who they are attacking. They are attacking not only the people with the biggest reach, but the biggest critics of them, the people that will show that they're just bullshit, and that's what they do. I don't think that they care so much about the small guy, although they're probably like gnats to them, in other words, But those people that have the huge reach, those are the people that they target. I mean, look at what Greer does too. Greer has his little group over here. Knapp has his little over there, and they kind of cross over a little bit. And then you got failed guitarists up here over in this group, and they all have this competition. Okay, well, this guy really isn't right. No, none of you are right, but or provably wrong. You're provably wrong, and it's just this competition between them all and saying, okay. Greer has been talking shit about us, so maybe we should write something about him, and especially like the news.
Yeah, the
or
problem
anything
is
on Twitter.
there's only so many UFO dollars to go around, and everybody, all these guys want to be the top dog, raking in the biggest money, and they do attack each other. It's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I like the fights between the SSP people. I'm talking to the Galactic Federation of Aliens. No, you're not. I am.
Oh no, Wilcock did another lie.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, we covered it. Yeah.
That Okies
Weird
documentary.
Stories. Yeah, Okies Weird Stories.
That it was so great.
Yeah, for those unaware, a guy who has a show called Okies Weird Stories, he went into the SSP people and he just made up a bunch of nonsense. He researched it. He threw in Kevin Spacey's clone trained him, and they ate it up. They thought it was the best story ever.
My favorite thing is the fact that Oki is black, and there's like the guy interviewing him like makes some really weird comments about him needing different training he's heard because of his ethnicity. But it's just, it's off the wall. But that guy was that guy. Yeah, we've talked about one of his videos before.
Hey, I gotta take a moment to do this. We want to make sure that we thank Montauk Jo, who says, "Let's get deprogrammed, Stephen. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support." And we want to thank Mystery for a kind and generous $5 PayPal pledge. And we've got David B for a kind and generous $5.82, who says, "Thanks as always. You'll never guess what happened to me the other day. I was in line for spring water, and he did not finish." And Miss Therese says, "Another great show from Miss Therese." So thank you, all of you, for helping us to praise the cash. We appreciate you. Thanks for appreciating us. So I get so frustrated with people that like ask me about the Skinwalker Ranch television show or anything, because I know the whole, like Jess, right? Like Jess, the whole history of that situation. So do you get like annoyed when people ask you or mention to you the television show because it's so nonsensical at this point?
I mean, I've watched every single episode. The last season was very, very, very difficult to get through because it just keeps getting more ridiculous. And the longer they go, the less proof that they have, and they're starting to make up stuff. I think the first couple of seasons, they were okay. They were just presenting whatever. And then you see the last two seasons where we got bugs flying around that they're calling UFOs, and you got like spider webs that they're calling orbs and stuff. Like it's getting a little bit fantastical. It's like they're getting a little bit desperate for material, and I wonder how many more
it's
seasons
like
they're going
Ancient
to go.
Aliens. You know what's great about the show Ancient Aliens? even if you don't believe in that, if you watch the first season of Ancient Aliens, you know, they're talking about Machu Picchu and they're talking about the pyramids and they're talking about, you know, real archaeological sites and weird anomalies with discoveries of archaeological significance. And it's almost believable to me. You know, it's like, well, it kind of makes sense, you know. And then they went for like 12 or 15 seasons now. So at the end of it, it's like Einstein and Alien. Like,
it's rinse and repeat.
What?
They
just
take
run
the
out
same
of material. Yeah, they ran out of material.
Einstein got downloads. I don't know what you're talking about. But then he had relationship with like someone who was a cousin of his too.
Yeah.
Einstein,
yeah.
So.
I mean, I think sorry, you can go ahead.
Could it be as simple as them they already got their claws in these people and now they're just really going to dig deep, you know? Go ahead, Jeff.
I think they just run out of material.
Contracts.
Like
yeah.
the first season of Ancient Aliens, they covered all the stuff that is sort of compelling or mysterious about all of that. And then by the second season, they're just like, whoa, you know, they're just throwing in anything like Einstein and aliens, Tesla. He communicated with aliens. This has nothing to do with Ancient Aliens.
That's how,
you know?
yeah, that's how they got their downloads, is what they're saying.
I mean,
But
they're still my favorite junk UFO show to go to. Like, if you want to fall asleep and want to hear some bullcrap while you're going, it doesn't matter what episode you put on. Just put it on because you've probably seen that episode like 4 or 5 times, like in different seasons. It's just rinse and repeat.
I know Roku channel has Ancient Aliens on often, and then I would gamble whether or not David Wilcox would be in the episode or not. You know, like, oh, is he going to be? And then if he's in it, it's like, what era does his image look? That's the game I play.
Yeah. What was the real reason that Wilcox come back? Now he says that he's like $1 million down or something like that, and it just so happens, what did he spend $1 million on? I just thought that was too convenient when I heard that. I know you covered it the other night, or you said that you did, but I just found that funny. I was like, dude, no wonder why you're down $1 million. No wonder why your wife left you. I mean, hey, you know, it's probably a sad thing, but well.
Actually, that really reminds me. I have to make a correction or addendum, I guess, to our previous reporting. 1 second here, and we can talk about this. For those unaware, David Wilcox's shady aerospace company was sued in court, and default judgments were entered. And John Christian Spatavecchi is following this very closely, sharing everything with me. So his shady aerospace company got sued in court by both investors who claimed that it was an investment scam and a Ponzi scheme. And Stavati admitted that they were taking money from new investors to pay old investors. So it looks like that's the technical definition of a Ponzi scheme. But the latest is that their creditors were suing them. Or no, this is Dimitrov, who claimed that they defrauded him in an investment scam, claiming that they had income from aerospace products when their only income was from a garbage company renting the airplane hangar to store dumpsters in for a few $1,000s a month. And John says there is drama in Dimitrov versus Stavati. Today, the judge ordered the default entries removed and the default judgments denied. Stavati must now enter a responsive pleading. So it looks like the default judgments won't stand and it's going to go to trial, which is interesting. But Stavati Aerospace ignored this. I don't think anybody cares about the legal documents. So Stavati Aerospace ignored the being sued for so long that the plaintiff entered default judgments. I incorrectly said that they won default judgments. They hadn't been ruled on yet by the judge. The judge has now ruled on them and denied them. So now the case goes to trial. But there's some serious allegations that David Wilcox shady aerospace company, which by the way never produced a single airplane or product in over 20 years of being in operation and collecting investment money. That might be your first red flag that this company's shady. If you've been collecting investment money for 20 plus years and you can't show a single product, then we detailed that they were lying about having wind tunnel contracts. John Foyed, they don't have wind tunnel contracts. They just made that up while they're begging for investor money. So that company is very, very shady, Sixus.
So did they even have the intent on using it for what they said, for an aerospace company?
Well,
I mean,
I don't
who
know,
buys
but
the-
they've rented. The only asset they have is that airplane hangar that Wilcock was showing off, saying that they were going to build hover cars there. To my knowledge, there's no hover cars there, but you know what is there? A whole lot of garbage dumpsters, because they rent that hangar from David Wilcock's shady aerospace company.
And they totally ripped that idea off from TTSA about the car, or about the airplane.
Yeah, they work for them. Hey,
Yep.
we're going to build a spaceship, and they got $2 million. So maybe Wilcock thought they were going to get $2 million to build a hover car. But the whole situation with Wilcock is ridiculous, because he claims, Jess, that he's going to use the patents from Salvador Pais, and he's going to use the technology in those patents to create a commercial product he's going to sell. That's not how this. You can't just take somebody's patented technology, even if it does work, and use it to sell a commercial product. You can't do that. It's illegal.
Did you hear Did you hear the interview that Salvador Pais did with Kurt with Theories of Everything? That dude was on the verge of tears. Like, I don't even know what to think about him. He's got some serious emotional stuff going on.
I think he's a shyster. I don't think that stuff works. And now he's making excuses because people tried to make a working, at least technology demonstrator out of those patents, and nothing happens. So now he said on that podcast, oh, well, I left some of the secret sauce out of the patent, so only I can do the anti-gravity. Come on.
Could Wilcock had been working behind the scenes with him, saying, hey, look at, I got this idea, and if I can use your patent, or at least say that I'm going to use it.
Well, yeah, you can
license. Make a lot of money.
You can license a patent, but I think that Wilcock saw that patent and just jumped the gun and decided not only was anti-gravity and free energy entirely possible, but that he could just copy those patents and make free energy devices and anti-gravity engines.
No,
and
what I'm saying is
the only thing that he's produced is 3D printed toys that look like G.I. Joe toys. That's all he's produced.
That's what I'm saying, though. Did he actually have the intent on building such a thing? That's what I'm saying. Otherwise, the investors are saying, oh, well, he's really going to try to build this thing. And he really, truly had no intention on doing it, nor no means. I mean, who has that? I mean, the greatest scientists in the world would have a hard time with that.
The whole thing is just ridiculous, because, listen, if free energy and anti-gravity were really possible, it would require hundreds of millions of dollars probably of research and development to make anything work, right? So we're just supposed to believe that Wilcock is just going to take some patent off the internet and just build a hover car in some hangar. Right. He's never built anything. It's ridiculous. There's engineers that can't do this.
He looks like he knows what he's talking about when it comes to electrical and mechanical things. I don't know.
He's an idiot. I don't know. I spent my life building electronic devices. I really have.
No, his hands. He looks like he has calloused hands.
I got into free energy stuff and started I built so many things. Nothing works. I'm convinced that it's just all a red herring and it's just all pie in the sky nonsense and none of it works. People have collected tens of millions of dollars to produce a free energy device in the history of the free energy grift. Nobody's ever produced a working prototype. So, and in Wilcock, it's like, let's make this even more impossible. First, I'm going to tell everybody I'm going to make a anti-gravity hover car. Then I'm going to tell everybody I'm going to put a free energy engine inside of it, and you won't ever need to fuel it, and it can power your whole house. Now he's saying they're going to make a camper version with a cooktop so you can camp in it.
There's channels on YouTube that promise that very thing.
Anti-gravity powered. But as if an anti-gravity powered hover car is not impossible enough to promise people, then you tack on a free energy engine on top of it.
Eventually, you're going to have to do an episode about Malcolm Bendel and his brand new free energy device that he's been pushing. He went to Joe Rogan.
Yes, yeah.
He went on Joe
Yeah.
Rogan. Joe Rogan would not air the episode. He did the episode, shut it down. There's a whole history with
Yeah, I
Bendel.
heard him on Concrete talking about it, and it sounds like pie in the sky nonsense. But there are people that are dumping some money into it,
There are
so
a
I'm
lot
kind
of
of a wait and
people.
see. Yeah,
There are a lot of
I'm kind of
people,
like wait and see.
especially in the past 6 months. Like, you know, it was quiet up until like the past 6 months, and all of a sudden you see people dumping energy and time and money into this dude's claims. But if you look at the guy, you know, for the 5 years ago, he was like in Australia, like taking people for billions of dollars on like oil scams. So
Yeah,
it's one
that
of
could
those
be a
things where
first.
it's like, I'm a little bit
It's
sketchy.
always shady. It's always shady people that are saying they have free energy. It's never, you know, like a real science guy that's reputable and credible. It's always some shady dude, you know.
Those people are still trying to hunt him down and get their money back.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And I guess
But
Joe Rogan must have caught wind of all that shit after he was already interviewing the guy, and then got cold feet about helping him sell the grift. You know, good for him, I guess.
yeah, but look at these YouTube channels. I mean, and there's a lot of them too. They got millions of followers, and every single free energy quote device is just some ridiculous nonsense. I mean, something as simple as just putting wires to a magnet. There you go, free energy automatically. I mean, it's the most ridiculous shit, but they get millions of views, millions of followers. I mean, are there that many people that actually believe that this shit is real? I mean, granted,
Well,
look,
people
maybe
want to believe
half of
it's
those
real
are.
because listen to the sales pitch they all give. Greer gives it. You know, everybody gives that pitch that like, well, if you had free energy, you wouldn't need to work so much because all of your energy needs from heating to electricity to everything would be provided for free. So you'd have to work half as much. And wouldn't your life be so much better if you could only work half the time you work now? And it sounds good. It sounds like a utopian
You know what's funny,
situation.
dude? You know what's funny is not one of them use a free energy powered device. They all you plug into the wall. I'm like, Jesus, what about your free energy? I mean, why are you plugging into the wall if you can make free energy? It's so
Well, people have
ridiculous.
collected a lot of money.
Yeah, a
Stephen Greer
lot.
collected $500,000 and promised to produce a free energy device, produced nothing. Then he collected another $500,000 just to make a film about free energy. So he collected $1 million off of the free energy grift. That's one
That's what I'm saying.
example.
There's a lot of money in that stuff. And I mean, did Screwball think that he actually could make money, you know, making this claim only
Well,
to get
I don't
sued
you
or
think
whatever?
like I don't know what his thinking process is, but like I know that I wouldn't go on the internet and start talking about a product I'm developing for sale until I at least had a working model.
Yeah.
Right. So like he just totally jumped the gun. I saw some patents and this shady aerospace CEO says that he'll help me build it. So we're building a hover car. You know, he has no idea how to build anything. He's never built anything. He has no track record. He's been wrong about everything he's talked about for decades. But people are still lining up to give him money to get the sacred messages from angels, which I have a huge problem with. Why would an angel go, here's some sacred knowledge? And, you know, you go sell it to the people of Earth for $333.
You know what?
It makes no
I
sense.
wonder if Wilcock has a team much like, you know, Knapp and Greer and stuff. They got a team all behind them doing all this stuff and grifting for them and stuff, promoting and whatever. Does Wilcock?
So. I mean, by his past two broadcasts, it doesn't look like he has anyone assisting him.
Right.
I mean, he didn't have any moderators in the chat room.
Yeah,
and
people are making fun of his teeth and his hair and his
oh
gosh,
gosh,
track record.
I was going hard, but I was like, David, you're so awesome. I'm like, David, you're so wise.
No.
But, and then someone in the chat was like, you must be like bipolar if you're not a bot. And
This is related to the Skinwalker scam. Eric Davis was one of the scientists that worked for Bigelow and wrote those theoretical papers. And here the Air Force calls his research crackpot physics, labeled as wasteful by scientists. And by the way, thanks for sending this to me because every once in a while, somebody sends me something of Eric Davis, and I want to send this back to him and go, no, he's a wackadoo.
I've been trying to do something with that for like the past week or so, but it's everything else has come up. But it's the whole thing that Eric Davis has been doing this for a very long time. And
Isn't
the new
it 3
book,
years ago he promised? 3 years ago he said that we have non-human extraterrestrial spacecraft in the government's possession, and he hasn't
and
proven
they
it.
rescinded the article. It was in one of the, I think it was like one of the New York Times
New York
articles.
Times articles, yeah.
And they rescinded it because he said off-world vehicles, and they had to pull that back and say, "Oh, he didn't actually say that." And now the whole thing is because he got chewed out by his bosses for saying that, right? So he rescinded the article, and now you get this. It brings us back to Lukatsky. He's putting out all of these programs, and that's where this kind of ties in. With the DIRDs, and Eric Davis was one of the authors on most of all of the DIRDs. I can't remember how many they were like.
Yeah. So we have a scientist that was called a crackpot physicist by the Air Force.
Yeah.
He's the one taking the 22 million and writing a bunch of nonsensical reports and theoretical physics papers for the 22 million to try to justify the lack of evidence that they had.
But the thing is, this article was on a program that was not related to AAWSAP or any of the DIRDs that he did. So there are other programs that are out there that are in the intelligence communities of all the different sectors of, the defense, the Department of Defense.
Yeah, look at
this.
This
Is one of them.
Yeah, this is one of those. It's a $20.5 million advanced rocket and missile design contract, and the report calls for $7.5 million to conduct psychic teleportation experiments. That's what they're spending our money on, $7.5 million to conduct psychic teleportation experiments.
That has nothing to do with AAWSAP.
Yeah, this is a separate program, sure.
Well, they mentioned about the different oh shit, sorry. Excuse me.
There's a lot of freaking money that's being moved around and pushed towards these programs. And I'll be honest with you, some of them may be legit. Some of them may be legit. Some of them may be just like a money laundering type deal, or like it gets so confusing. It may be both. It may be like, hey, we want to do something. Oh, you put it into this category, you get the funding.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
what I was saying is that's why he mentioned that quantum field theory shit and stuff, and the different dimensions, and they all are on that same thing, that there's dimensions. Now, look, I don't know myself that there isn't other dimensions that I can't see that are there, but I don't see them, or they ain't physical. I can't tell you that, but nobody can either, and they all go back to that thing. It's a space-time continuum, the Star Trek shit.
Well, they got to speculate because they don't have, they don't have evidence to share. So they got to just speculate for an hour,
Yeah, think about what their next grift is and how they're going to do it. But it always includes the same type of ingredients. It's always the same ingredients. They don't never change that up. The ingredients are always the same. Oh, we can't tell you. We can't tell
and
you.
The people are the same. It's very, very incestuous. You cannot pull any of these programs and shoot an arrow and find somebody.
Yeah, they're all involved. Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, Travis Taylor. They're all this small group of government wackadoos, basically. And it's interesting that a bunch of government wackadoos can just manipulate the system and get $22 million to spend on nonsense.
22 million that we know of. If you listen to the recent interview with Lukatsky, the only program that he would acknowledge was AAWSAP because it's out there. And when he was asked about other legacy programs, he smirked and said, I will acknowledge AAWSAP. So then, that's where Bigelow comes in also. He had an interview that's I have a clip of it. It's very unknown. Not a lot of people have seen it. I should repost it. But he said, you know, it was probably about 6 years ago where he said, I decided that I should stop talking about the UFO topic. And the only reason you would stop talking about this would be that either A, you got a whole lot of money to dive into the research on it, or it's so horrendous and a detriment to national security that you don't want to go there. So those, you know, I think the former is, you know, probably what's going on. He got a lot of money to shut the hell up on it.
Isn't
Yeah,
that why
and by the way,
they-
Eric Davis is another one of those guys who's like, oh, I know all these secrets, but I can't tell you. You know,
I'll tell you another one.
Yeah.
Axelrod. Who is Axelrod?
Oh, that is the other
Jay Stratton.
Jay Stratton, UATPF, right? Or
He come
what?
out in January. He was acknowledged as being Axelrod in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, and multiple times after that, even George Knapp said, "Hey, Axelrod is going to come out this year and divulge who he is." He never did, but Jay Stratton, as we know, he went on Skinwalker.
He basically, for those unaware,
Skinwalker
in the book they used a pseudonym of Axelrod for this
Yeah.
Jay Stratton person, but he's admitted that was him. So he's another one that's deeply involved. It's just, you're right. It's this incestuous bunch of wackadoos.
It's known that Jay Stratton is Jonathan Axelrod, and they're still using his pseudonym.
Because it's a good anonymous source that they can pump up their fake stories with, you know?
But isn't that what they do? They go ahead, they get these people that are in the military, that are in the government, this and this and this and that, all for clout and this and this and that. You know, here's what I figure, like in the Grusch situation. Granted, Grusch really had nothing really good to offer, at least to the Congress, but look at how often do you see these people do this? They'll take that 1% of truth, that 2% of truth, and expand it to 100%. Now it's a story all of a sudden, and it's totally blown out of proportion. What's to say that that's just what they do? They get that little tiny little crumb from Grusch. Oh, he said something that he shouldn't have.
Yeah,
exactly. And let's expand this.
This is what I'm talking about. They always manipulate the available data to their advantage to sell the story.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the lie by omission too. They just leave out the rest of the story, which is what, you know, tonight's broadcast was really about. Like, there's two sides to this Lakatsky story, and the one side is, oh, isn't that cool? He spearheaded a $22 million paranormal investigation for the government. But the other side of the story is that him and his wackadoo friends, including Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff, wasted $22 million of taxpayer money chasing ghosts, literally chasing ghosts.
Well, that's why he attacks the New York Times, isn't it? You know.
Can I bring up something else?
Sure.
The Soul Foundation.
Yeah.
So it was about a month ago that the article was produced in the Debrief, I want to say. And this is kind of a trend that I've been seeing for just the past 2 months. All of a sudden, you see Danny Sheehan, you see Lakatsky, you see the director of the Soul Foundation. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he said, hey, we are reviewing the need to know for the people. So we're trying to decide what you guys actually need to know and what, you know, based on national security, we should be keeping a secret. So that's the new trend. Everybody wants to know, what is our actual need to know? And they're like, hey, basically, we're telling you guys that you're not going to get to know everything. There's a big portion of this stuff that we're keeping secret. And the Soul Foundation, I don't know if you realize this, but they're the ones who are writing the legislation.
Yeah, they're helping, sure. Yeah, or probably writing it. They're ghostwriting it for these clueless senators. Yeah.
They have already written the first 3 pieces of legislation. They have 2 more that are in the works, and I don't know what their involvement on the Schumer amendment was, but they've had a hand in all of this. And Gary Nolan is the person who basically founded that entire project. He brought David Grusch on. Okay, so David
So
Grusch.
we've got those 2 wackadoos writing legislation. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah,
exactly.
So they're basically this is like a whole other little faction that's off to the side, where they're going to be getting paid regardless of the outcome, because they're going to be getting paid in contracts to
and
review
consulting
stuff.
fees and whatever.
Yes, exactly. Regardless of, hey, yay aliens, no aliens, they're going to be getting paid regardless.
Just, don't you think it's interesting? And do you think that I'm right? Because I think that I am, in that, what are we at, 137 days now since Grusch came out with his original claims or allegations? Still no evidence to support those claims or allegations, despite, claims of all this evidence and all these other witnesses that are going to corroborate things. Don't you think that it's funny that we're at 137 days and there's no evidence, number one? And number two, do you agree that he's going to be working UFO conventions real soon and will be for a decade? I think so.
Oh, absolutely. I think that he already has all of that into place from the very first time that you reported on it. You were the very first person who said, hey, this guy has documentaries in the work. And they can't nobody say that you weren't the first person, because you were. And that proved out to be factual. And he's going to do the whole Luis Elizondo podcast tour, documentary tour. It's like a whole, they have
I know all the UFO circle jerker shows are salivating, waiting to get their interviews. He's going to be making the rounds soon, but he's got to have something to sell to make all those podcast appearances worth it. So look for a quick book to be out soon.
Did you hear about Alien Con? Alien Con canceled once a year.
Yeah.
They're doing road tours now. They're doing multiple shows per year instead of the once annually.
Yeah.
Isn't that the grifter's path to success?
I'm upset though, because every year when they have Alien Con, I love that. Like, did they name it that on purpose? Asking for a friend,
Right?
That's
the only show that Jay Stratton has went on, and that's the only show that Jay Stratton, who is Axelrod, went on, and he went and he said that he was the person that was called from, you guys know about the 2019 drone incursions off of California?
Yes, with the Navy. Sure.
So he was called and said, hey, we got some UFOs, you guys come out here. He and an unnamed source, who I believe may not be, I'm just speculating, could possibly be David Grusch, because he had already enlisted David Grusch at that time to go and
find the aliens, Dave. Go find the aliens.
To go and get this information. They went to all of those ships. They brought everything back. And they were supposed to send everything up to the Pentagon. And somehow Jeremy Corbell got a hold of some stuff that wasn't sent up to the Pentagon, that should have been sent up to the Pentagon. And they're like, Jeremy Corbell ever said.
Probably classified material. And Corbell's just putting it out going, it's aliens, it's aliens.
But he's made money, and he's said several times since, this stuff should have gone to the Pentagon. It's a shame that we're the ones who have to push it up there. Well, where the hell did you get it in the first place?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to get too much into that because I'll get myself into trouble, but
or get me into trouble more precisely, right?
Just saying, it's shady. It's shady. It's shady. It's always been shady. Always will be shady.
Wow. Yeah, I think that the whole thing is the Grusch thing fascinates me though, because I haven't added it all up, but if you count News Nation, monetized views, Corbell's, Coulthard's, everybody's money, they're generating hundreds of thousands of dollars out of this guy who has no evidence. And I just find that you're just generating hundreds of thousands of dollars from a guy telling stories that other people told him. And a lot of Grusch's material seems to just be coming straight from the UFO community, right, Jess? It's just like stuff that the wackadoo circuit gave him.
All right, so here's the question. Lakatsky said 2 days ago, there are a lot of people, and he said, and I quote, I could name a list of all of the people who were wrong and delusional, who were feeding Grusch these stories.
Yeah.
He said, I could name a list of people that have spoken to Grusch. He was very confident when he said that.
Yeah, I think it's because it's the same old crowd of wackadoos. It's Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff. It's Lou Elizondo and Gary Nolan and Jay Stratton. It's all the same wackadoos that pushed the Skinwalker Ranch, that were responsible for wasting $22 million of taxpayer money. It's the disclosure dork grift squad, basically. And I feel bad for that guy because I feel like he got manipulated, and they probably did the same thing that Elizondo did to other people. Like, oh, you're going to be a disclosure hero and all this nonsense.
Well, he was really young. I feel bad for him too. I think that he was really young and he was really impressionable, and some people got their claws into him. And I have some dates. Here's a date that I'll throw out at you. The same month that Luis Elizondo, it was within 2 weeks, that in July of, I think it was 2021, that Luis Elizondo went up and spoke with the DOD IG about his claim. 2 weeks later, Grusch was presenting his information to the DOD IG. And the guy that was in charge, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was brand new. He had only been there a few months, and he was taking both Elizondo and Grusch's claims. And I think it was just like 8 months later, I think it was February.
They probably coordinated that. He did that to help Elizondo. Yeah.
Personally, I think Elizondo got recruited Grusch after Stratton brought Grusch on. Stratton said that he was knocking on doors and he found Grusch. And then a few months later, Elizondo needed people to back him up. And that's when Grusch went to testify before the IG, the DOD IG. And that's when he started getting, looked into his background. And that's when they started to vet him. And within a year later, I think it was probably about a year later, that's when he filed his complaint with the DOD IG IC saying that, hey, these guys are looking into me and doing some reprisals because they're saying that my security clearance is no longer valid, because they're just starting to look into my background and seeing all the, the stuff that they probably shouldn't know.
Yeah, but it is interesting that, like Corbell and Knapp essentially admitted that Grusch got investigated for hanging out with them, but I think he should have, because they're leaking stuff from classified briefings, like stills from a video that was in a classified briefing. You can't leak that. So there's a risk of exposing national secrets.
I mean, that was even a year later.
Guys that are putting stuff out, right?
I mean, that was even a year later.
Yeah,
that was a year later from what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about was in 2021, originally when Elizondo went to talk about his claims. Remember his claim with...
Yeah, exactly. But one of the problems that I have with Grusch is we don't know what... just as he has no evidence of his alien claims, he has no evidence that he was actually retaliated against. It could be as simple as, hey, dude, what are you doing bothering people about aliens all day? You're not assigned that task. You're not doing your job or whatever. It could have been as simple as that. Like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be doing this intelligence analysis, and instead you're calling people about alien programs and crash retrieval shit. Like, that could have been what he's talking about. He could have been just disciplined.
Could be in his head too, like gang stalking,
Yeah. He's a targeted individuals.
Well, Knapp even said that his bosses went with him to the conference in June of 2022. It's like he brought his freaking bosses.
Yeah, it must have been higher ups that had a problem. I'm telling you, If I was in charge of national security in any capacity, and somebody with high-ranking clearances was hanging out with a group of guys who were leaking classified information or possibly classified information from classified briefings, like literally Corbell is getting sent like videos from inside Navy command centers, and he's releasing that. You can't do that. So they would look into that situation and say, what are you doing hanging out with these guys? Are you giving them any material that they're using in their stories?
Well, that's a what if. What if, given the situation, Grusch was poking around in places he shouldn't have been, and he was being denied here, and somebody on the other side has got higher clearances saying, "Wait a minute, why is he poking around? Hey, you shouldn't be doing this stuff." You know, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
especially
scenario.
with special access projects and
Right.
unacknowledged special access projects. They don't even acknowledge they exist.
Right.
So,
And
you
he's
know, there
acknowledged
could be all kinds of advanced drone projects, stealth blimps they're working on, you know, camouflage technology, weird metamaterials, 3D printing of aerodynamic structures. There could be 100 different projects that are in the aerospace sphere that are secret government projects, weapons development, and he's poking around in them and he doesn't have a need to know. And so he gets disciplined. That's very different. That's just as possible a scenario as he was getting too close to the secrets about the aliens, so they shut him down, you know?
Given his clearance, I mean, we could almost pretty much be sure that he did indeed seen something that, well, you probably shouldn't let this out. You know, I mean, is he taking it upon himself to say under his own discretion, saying, okay, well, this is okay. They can know this kind of thing. And I'm going to tell Knapp this because he's really going to love this. I mean, how much of the real information that they took, that 1-2%, did Knapp and Doorbell explode it into something else, or, you know, News 8 there?
Again, with the massaging of available data to sell the story. There's always a narrative, and it's even if it's a square pegs through a round hole, they try to fit it in there to kind of sell the story, you know? And the story that they're pushing is that, oh, he's getting too close to the secrets about the aliens, so they decided to retaliate against him because he's a hero and a whistleblower. No, he's a disclosure dork, and he apparently has been into science fiction and UFOs for years. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you something that I disagree with John Greenwald on. And I mean, I have immense respect for John Greenwald, like a lot. Like I've followed everything that he's done. I've read his books.
One of the good guys.
He's one of the good guys. But he does not think that there is a law enforcement investigation going on. And I don't understand why he doesn't think that that's happening when it's been said over and over and over again ever since the Mosul orb situation dropped, that they're looking into the leakers, whoever leaked that to Knapp and Corbell.
Yeah.
Susan Ghost said that.
That's why Corbell all of a sudden started calling himself a journalist, because he thinks that provides him some protection.
Oh, it provides him the Protection Act against journalists. That's when exactly he started calling himself a journalist. But
he said it was for self-defense. He said he did that for self-defense. So at least he's truthful about that. Like, you know, he could face some serious criminal consequences for leaking this stuff and profiting from it all. He had no right to do that. And you know what? Another question, a big question that I have, Jess, is every time you see a news program that plays his pyramid UFO crap, fake hoaxed video with his watermark on it, I think he's getting a royalty fee. Like they're paying him to use that footage on their broadcast. And that's taxpayer funded film. He has no right to profit from that, in my opinion. And nobody will answer any questions. You can call News Nation and ask if they're paying Corbell a licensing fee. I tried. They won't get back to me. Crickets. But it's not just News Nation. It's CNN. It's Fox News. And if they're all playing this video and he's getting a little bit of money every time we see that pyramid green video on every broadcast about UFOs, is he getting money from taxpayer funded videos that he has no right to profit from? They belong to everybody. He can't copyright that or trademark that.
You mean those triangles, those green triangles?
Yeah, the bunker footage.
Mick West did an excellent job on going like that, and it's really just the camera itself. But even then, the government, or well, the people that were up there on the UFO committee decided that says, oh well, we don't really know that that's the case. What, you can't look at your own camera? I mean, you just can't look at it. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah, and besides,
it's right
in that video, they're clearly flashing FAA lights, which makes no sense. If it's aliens, that could be your first clue. It's not aliens.
The aliens,
but that's what they do. They
technology.
jump right to the aliens, just like with the flare video. Oh, we investigated this case for 2 years. And you didn't know that at the exact time and place of that UFO sighting, there was military exercises dropping flares in that exact GPS location. And you spent 2 years. They know it's not. They knew it was flares. They pushed that story anyway. They probably made, $10,000, $20,000 in monetized views pushing that completely fake story. And that's another thing. Like, people are arguing on Twitter, like, Jess, I just saw like, oh, well, what part of this podcast do you think is BS? Well, we've got people that have provably pushed BS multiple times before. So you have to question everything they're saying and pushing. And you have to question their entire narrative.
Also, this time last year, it was a completely different scene. And people were sharing things left and right. This was before the whole issue of, you might be prosecuted for sharing some classified info came about. And there were people passing. I mean, I know people. I'm not going to say who, but I know people who are passing stuff left and right around.
I got some questionable military videos from some people as well. And I just wasn't going to publish them because I don't know the provenance and where they came from and if I'm legally allowed to. So I just sat on them,
Yeah, Jess had mentioned the Mogul UFO there. Now, again, Mick West showed that, look, it's a matter of perspective. You got two moving ships. The camera's moving, the object's moving. It might look like it's going super fast, but it's really just kind of crawling. And here's the thing, though. If they actually did the investigation much like he does, they would say, oh, yeah, it's probably not really moving the, 800 miles an hour or Mach 10 or something ridiculous. And they push that shit so much. They never actually look into the data. And hey, where is that data that they're supposed to have? They don't ever.
We never get to the data. It's just like everybody saying that these UFOs, they defy the laws of physics. Great, show me the sensor data to prove that. Oh, well, we don't have that.
Exactly, because you can plug that sensor data into a decoder or whatever you want to call it.
I'm always amused with the talking points because it seems like somebody puts out that talking point and then everybody just parrots it. How many times have we heard these things defy the laws of physics, or we just don't have this level of technology, as if every level of technology on Earth? You don't.
Well, how many people?
Ridiculous.
How many people have a fair amount of physics experience or education? I think most people overall, I'm not trying to down anybody. I think they have a very general idea of it. Yeah, the apple fell from the tree. Okay. I'm not trying to demean people, but I think that's what they capitalize on. People don't know about the space-time continuum. They don't know about that stuff, or a lot of people. I'm not saying everybody. We got some smart people here, I'm sure of it.
I had somebody call me up and say, hey, you have no idea what you're talking about. I was shared this information covertly. I had to hide it from my bosses when I was watching because I wasn't supposed to be looking at it, but I saw it and it was absolutely of the Tic Tac and the 2009 stuff. I was like, I saw this and, I had to hide it and you're just crazy. You don't know what you know. You are in denial. It's like, maybe, you need to come to, resonance within yourself. It's like, it's okay. You don't have to be upset over this. Telling me that I was upset.
Yeah.
And that's why I was skeptical of it.
I love just the ones that are like, you'll see when disclosure comes, Stephen, you naysayer. I'm like, okay, all right, yeah.
Completely disclosed all of the shady shit that they were doing. They're like, I'm doing X, Y, and Z that I shouldn't be doing. And I'm doing this for you because you need to understand, because you're in denial, because you're afraid of what's coming. And I'm like,
ontological denial. Yes.
Oh my God.
Denial is not a river in Egypt.
Yes, and we want to thank Puxley for a kind and generous 10-pound super sticker. Longtime show supporter. Thank you, Puxley. And we thank all of you kind and generous benefactors for appreciating us. We appreciate you as well. Well, look, I think we did our due diligence here. What I said at the beginning of the broadcast is there's two sides to this story. And the one side is, yay, the government investigated paranormal stuff. And isn't this cool? And the other side is a bunch of wackadoos within the United States government and their friends are wasting a lot of taxpayer money on nonsense. And they, even after spending 22 million or 10 million, they have no evidence to share with us. They have stories and theoretical physics papers. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
That's insanity. You just
Okay,
can't
Stephen.
understand it.
Hey, thanks for having me on there, dude. Despite the little mess up there on Discord, I don't dislike you. I don't hate you. I agree with you a lot of times. Not all the time, but who does that? I'm just out for truth.
Where do you get my
That's all
book
I'm out
on
for.
Hillary Clinton and adrenochrome drinking? Yeah.
All right.
Great
All is good
recipes.
here, buddy. I definitely didn't want to go there tonight. And if you want to go ahead and talk with me personally and privately,
Yeah, we should probably do that. But when you just jump on a public stream and then I know there's going to be some kind of
That's not what
BS
I'm about.
over it.
I'm not
All right,
about
well,
that.
whatever. We're okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Bye-bye. All right. And Thin Lizzie Borden, thank you for being here. And this is a first timer. We had more ladies on the panel tonight than men. Or no, we had equal number, I guess.
Well, for one time, at one period of time, you had two ladies up here with,
and
one
everybody let the
guy.
ladies talk tonight. Isn't that nice? For those unaware, we have a real problem sometimes. We'll have like one lady on the panel and all the men just never shut up and the girls just sit there waiting for their chance. And I got to try to jump in and get it. So tonight was better. And I'm glad for that. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not you. It's normally a bunch of men that won't shut up and they never let the
no.
girls say anything. And I always like, let the women, chime in here or whatever. Tonight I didn't have to do that. And that was a good thing. And I'm glad that we had two ladies here tonight, so it wasn't a sausage party. Thank you both for helping save my sausage party usual panel. We thank you. And I appreciate both of you. And I'm glad, especially Jess. I knew that Jess has all this insight. I'm glad that you were able to share so much tonight, Jess.
Can I say one thing before I go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Knapp said at the very, very end of that podcast that he did with Corbell and Lakatsky, that he said, I appreciate Colm Kelleher and Jim Lakatsky. You guys are my friends, and you guys have given me some insight on the people that I know who not to trust. And there are a lot of people that we shouldn't be trusting. So he goes, at least now I know that.
Yeah, get your UFO info from me, not not the liars, right?
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, he's like I said from the beginning, he's playing both teams. Like, he could be told by Lakatsky not to trust one person. He'll do an interview with them the next week. So him and Corbell, they're playing both teams, and I'm kind of glad that they're playing both teams because we get to see both sides of it. So,
Well,
but
we get both
they
sides
are
of the bullshit. I don't know if that's a better thing. It's double the bullshit.
But that's exactly what they're doing. They're playing
No, but you're
both
right.
teams.
They played every team. Like, oh, let's sell the TTSA story. And then when the money ran out of that, now we've got Lakatsky. Let's sell his story.
Well, you even had Corbell. That's one of the things I wanted to bring up tonight before you let me go. That Corbell said about a month ago, "Hey, I got some friends who are trying to discredit Grusch, and they're trying to say let a sleeping dog lie, and they're trying to feed Grusch to the dogs." And then as soon as he said that, about a week later, Bigelow comes out with his podcast, and then you have Lakatsky coming out with the same thing, same type of narrative.
They're basically saying that he's a
yeah.
useful idiot stooge for a counterintelligence operation. That's great.
So, I mean, it's neat when you actually like pay attention to all of these little bitty little pieces of the puzzle. You see what's going on, and like
Yeah, it's like
Corbell and
seeing the
Knapp, they're
whole
right in the middle.
field, and yeah, it's like seeing the whole chessboard instead of just one spot. You got to take a wider view. And thanks for your careful analysis, because I know that Jess is like totally connected to this shit. She can't stop watching.
It's an
We're listening.
addiction.
It is, yeah. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, Jess. You have a good
Yeah,
evening.
yeah, you too, man. I appreciate
All right,
it.
maybe I'll
Bye.
talk to you over the weekend. Thank you. Have a
Of
good night.
course. See ya.
All right, bye. All right, and then there is Lizzie Borden. What's going on with? Where's the guests? Where's the guests at?
I'm trying.
It's harder than it sounds, isn't it? Well, I do have some that I'm booking myself, so we have a few coming up next week, or a few coming up, so it's okay. I just like to bust your balls because
I give it back.
It's funny.
Right back at you.
Yeah, those priests are hard to get to, aren't they? Remember, I gave you all those priests.
Where it's like I'm going to use my given name. Well, I'll use my real name. I'll be
she's trying to be all professional, and they're still not responding. So,
but I'll continue to check because you never know, they might.
It's quite all right. I'll get on it. I'll get on it when I get a chance too, and I want to load up the show with a lot of great guests. So between the two of us, we'll get the guest thing going again. I appreciate your help with that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, and
I'll
you
see
you have a great night. All right, friends. So there we have it. We have done our due diligence. And isn't it? It's very interesting to me. Oh, now I'm confused on the cameras. 1 second. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So this situation continues to fascinate me. The fact that, almost as if there's two versions of reality. And if you listen to the grifters version of reality, that's one story. But when you peel back a few layers of the deceptions and the manipulating of available data going on, and how they're always carefully crafting a certain narrative in order to sell whatever their latest, greatest news story is. Now we've got, Lakatsky, he walked inside the hull of a UFO, and I'm sure all the disclosure dorks got their disclosure boner, even though there's no evidence of this. It's just a guy saying this, but it is what it is. So we've done our due diligence. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be doing a special premiere. I have a 1 second. Let me see if I can even find it, because it's brand new. I think we can find it. One moment. Let me channel. Let's see if I can find it. Oh yeah, I can. Imagine that. I found it. So I have started a new channel. For the cabin and cabin stuff. And before we start the new channel, I'm going to do a little preview of the content that we'll be having. The new channel that I'm just starting is called Build a Cabin, Change Your Life. I am going to go over to the live chat and put the link to the new channel in the live chat. I'd appreciate it if you go and subscribe to that. This is my new YouTube channel. And of course, as you may well be aware, I need to get 1,000 subscribers and a certain amount of watch time before that channel can be monetized. So I'd appreciate your help. Go on over there and click the subscribe button. I'm going to be doing live streams from the cabin, but I want to be clear in that the live streams from the cabin on that channel, they're going to be about cabin stuff. We're going to do product reviews and talk about different issues surrounding cabins and building cabins and off-grid stuff and solar panels and lighting solutions and and even a lot of camp cooking, which is something that I thoroughly enjoy. I think this weekend we're going to have wood stove cooked ribs, and I'll be filming that. So there's a lot of things that I do outside of this, and that's one of my huge interests. So I'd appreciate if you go over there and subscribe. I will be beginning uploading content there next week or so, I think. But before we do that, if you're a YouTube channel member here or a Patreon supporter, you've already seen them. I uploaded 3 episodes of a new series that I call Building the Hideaway. For those unaware, I built the first cabin, and then I bought some land deeper into the mountains, deeper into the woods. There's nothing around for miles. And I'm beginning the process there of building a little cabin, and you can follow along. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, especially, please do go over there and subscribe. Otherwise, thanks for indulging my other interests. Tomorrow night at 9 p.m., we'll be debuting the first 3 episodes of that series. I think it's about an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours. I don't know. I have to check. But they're already on Patreon, those 3 episodes, and on our YouTube channel members section. But I thought we'd make them public. This tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be doing a special premiere. And it's really just a way to invite people to join my new channel if you have interest in those kind of things. I truly believe, I called it Build a Cabin, Change Your Life, because I truly believe that doing that did change my life. For those unaware, I had a lot of corporate sad jobs, and I sat in a sad little cubicle for 10 hours a day. And most of that time I was dreaming about building a cabin out in the woods. And, you know, to be honest, I mean, I grew up camping, and I was a Boy Scout. My dad was big into camping and outdoor stuff and taught us a lot of things. But I'm still a little puzzled. I don't know why, but God put in my heart to build a cabin in the woods. And so for years and years, I sat in a sad little cubicle thinking about doing it, and how, you know, maybe as it was a fantasy and a means of escape from the drudgery of that sad life sitting in a cubicle. But anyway, about 5 years ago, I pulled the trigger on the first cabin, and it's been an amazing experience, and it really has changed my life in incalculable ways, because it's made me more self-reliant. It's made me learn all kinds of skills I never would have learned. I learned how to, you know, put a roof on a building. I learned how to build a building. I learned cordwood masonry, which is a construction technique that's kind of like building a brick wall, but instead of using bricks, you use logs and mortar mix. I learned an awful lot about carpentry, saws, chainsaws, construction, plumbing. I learned how to wire electrical wiring, something I've never known. So the benefits really have changed my life. It's made me more confident. It's made me more self-reliant. And it has also eased my anxiety about the crazy world in which we live in. I jokingly call the first cabin my apocalypse cabin. If anything really goes haywire or crazy in the world, I've got a great place to escape to. And there's plenty of protein walking around, and we have a lot of prepper supplies there, and, you know, a place to ride out the storm. And it's interesting that even during the health pandemic, everybody that I know was kind of going stir crazy, you know, on lockdown, and we weren't. We went to the cabin, and we were hiking and fishing and boating and just enjoying our lives there. And I enjoyed it so much that I decided to kind of do it again, because the first cabin, I'm going to jinx myself saying this, the first cabin is nearly complete. I have to finish some small things and put a porch roof on it. I may still, however, build a bedroom or some additional building out the back of this thing. But I regretted not filming building the whole first cabin. And I've learned so much building the first one that I decided I'm going to build a bigger, better one. And it's going to be a little more idyllic setting. I wanted originally for the cabin to just be in the middle of the woods with no neighbors, but go try to buy land in the middle of the woods with no neighbors. It's very, very, very expensive. But I was able to find someplace like that inexpensively, and so we're starting over there. And we're calling that property, the Hideaway, and eventually it will be my company's world headquarters and a big studio, both audio recording studio for music and video production studio as well. I've got a lot of big plans for that place. And you can see the beginning of it all, the genesis of the Hideaway, which is what I'm calling it, because it's in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, literally. So anyway, I'm starting this new cabin channel. And by the way, it won't detract from our show schedule, will remain the same. We'll still remain doing 3 or 4 live shows a week and some produced videos here as well. My major focus will always be on this show. But I'm there enough every weekend and have a lot of information to share, especially for somebody that wants to go on a sort of similar life journey and learn to do these things as well. I've learned so much building the cabin, and it really has changed my life for the better. I'm much more confident, more self-reliant. I have less anxiety about the state of the world because, you know, I can survive with nothing in the woods. I've sort of proven that to myself, and that's a good thing. I appreciate anybody that could go over there and subscribe, because that might give me a little bit of a head start on finding a following over there. We've already got 11 of you over here, but that leaves about 90 of you. Yeah, and I get it. If you don't want to subscribe, I get it. Maybe that's not some interest of yours, but it's certainly an interest of mine. So I'll be, you know, on that channel, I'm just going to try to upload like one channel or one video every couple of weeks or something like that. It'll be sort of a back burner project for me, but it's been something that I've wanted to do for a long, long time. So I appreciate your support in me doing that. And we'll take a few comments and questions from the live chat before we bounce on out of here. Yeah, here we go. Nightwatch N8 says that's what happens when you own a little land. You got to learn to keep things running. Yeah. And at this new property, I'm going to learn how to build a road, because the road is an old logging trail that's really a mess. And I can't even drive in right now. I have to sort of hike in the last mile or whatever. There's trees across the road and the road's all overgrown. And there's a plow truck from the nearest neighbor a mile and a half in the way. And he's got to move that. And yeah, the new property is going to be much, much more challenging because it's by itself. There's no neighbors. There's no power. There's no sewage. There's nothing. No electric, there's no gas, there's nothing. So it's really starting a property from the ground up with nothing. And you're right, when you got a place, you have to learn to keep things running. And throughout building the first cabin, you know, I considered hiring people to do things that I didn't know how to do, like the wiring, but just ended up learning it. And I'm a better person for doing it. Yeah. Nightwatch says, build your faith today. It's the only thing that'll get you through the road ahead. Do a little research in a series called Doomsday Garden. Probably be catching it up on the winter. Busy summer this year. I think my cabin channel will be right up your alley, Nightwatch, right? Yeah, sounds like an awesome property. Well, to most people, it wouldn't be, because you can't even drive into it. It's in the middle of nowhere. But for my purposes, I want a little hideaway in the woods that's sort of hidden and off and by itself. It's absolutely perfect, right? Nightwatch says, I'm not off grid, but close, surrounded by national forests. Yeah, so is this property. It's backed by there's a big state game land area for, I think it's thousands of acres behind that property. So it's just woods as far as you can see. I love it. Definitely check that out. Get that chainsaw, Paul Shield says. I finally did. For those unaware, I started building the new cabin with hand tools, and I explained it in the new series. I gave up. I couldn't do it. It was taking 10 minutes to cut through one log with a handsaw. And then I started doing math, realizing I got to cut like 200 logs, because they're smaller, to build this cabin twice. You have to cut each log twice. So that's 400 cuts times 10 minutes. You do the math. I just caved, and I got an electric chainsaw there. A cordless electric chainsaw. Oh, interesting. Lewis says, when I was the head of the NRO, I learned to build underground military bases, right? Yeah, I get it. Nightwatch said that wrong. Not completely surrounded. Still have neighbors, unfortunately, but a long driveway is key. The less people who can see what you're doing, the more freedom you have to do with whatever. Well, up until recently, Nightwatch, I never saw a human there. But recently I met my other close neighbor who's a mile from me, who drives through that where my property is on a quad. There's a logging trail in the front of my property. That's like the road it's on. And that was a weird exchange because he thought I was just living in the woods or something. He didn't, you know, I'm like, I own the prop, you know, like I'd explain it to him. He's like, what are you doing there? This is private property. And I'm like, yeah, it's my private property, you know? And he was a very suspicious individual. So I had to show him my driver's license. And then he instantly went on his phone and looked up the tax map to verify that I was the proper owner of the property. And I don't blame him. He's got his wife and his kids and his family a mile, and he thought some vagrant was living in the woods near his home. So he was concerned. I think that we worked it out though, and he's a little less nervous. We're fine. I've seen him one more time since then. Occasionally he's the only person I've ever seen back there. He'll drive through on a quad. Sometimes he doesn't stop and say hello. Sometimes he does. Yeah. Will there be an internet connection? Eventually, but I plan on putting that off for the longest time. I'm going to have candles and oil lamps and no internet and enjoy my time there. For those unaware, this property that I have, there's just woods for miles and there's all these hiking trails. So I'm enjoying just this connection there. And so once the structures are built and I'm going to start recording things there, yes, I will get internet. But until then, no. Yeah. Just a test to see if I am delete worthy or not. I don't know what that's about, Amy Collins. You're always welcome, right? Yeah. And Nightwatch says we have D-bag neighbors recently who literally threw a high-res drone over someone's properties and sent the pictures to the county, told them to clean up everyone's yards. Oh, I hate neighbors like that. Karens, right? Jesus. Even out in the wilderness, you get them, right? Yeah, I'm definitely out in the sticks. Definitely out in the sticks. Mr. Rhea is here, and thanks for the PayPal pledge. I love my low-tech hobbies, but I can't give up on the internet. Yeah. And Nightwatch says, sounds like a good idea. Nice place to connect with God in his creation. We all need to take a break now and then, especially us content creators. You are correct. I love it there. Some people go to church. I go to the woods, Nightwatch. Colorado Rockies. Colorado Rockies is beautiful. Colorado is on my list of places that I wanted to move to when I was younger. Never quite made it to living there, visit it. Great nature there. I loved it there. All right, so we've done our due diligence. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m., we'll have a special premiere. Let me go and fix that. I don't know where. Yes, I'll put. So tomorrow night, we'll be doing a preview of my new YouTube channel. I'll just put new YouTube channel preview premiere. And I will be heading to the cabin tomorrow. I should be there in time to be available for the premiere. I'll be in the live chat. So my new YouTube channel preview premiere is tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And please join us. And also please like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. I would appreciate it. I've been slacking on playing the bumpers that tell people to do that. So I'll just tell you verbally. It really does help if you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I appreciate all of you that I see retweeting my tweets or sharing my Facebook posts with the show posts. It really, really does help. And what else helps is come back and watch one more. If you've enjoyed tonight's broadcast, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other live shows. Just click on the live link and check them out. And maybe there's something that interests you. Maybe not tonight. Maybe you've had enough of this for tonight, but maybe tomorrow, the next day, over the weekend, if you have time, I'd appreciate you watching one more, because apparently that makes YouTube turn the recommends up. Great. Did I name the channel? Yeah. I'm going to show it one more time. It's called Build a Cabin, Change Your Life. And I will begin uploading content there. I got to get a better banner, but boy, they're really weird with the banner. You know, they tell you upload this huge file, but then they only take a small portion of it. And you got to fit what you want to say. And I got to try to do a better banner than this. But in the avatar is my first cabin, and I'll be doing a video about that and videos from both places. So it's a good situation because I'll have two locations to film at doing cabin stuff. Kind of makes sense. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I want to thank our lovely panel members, Jess Go Kicks Rocks on Twitter, Thin Lizzie Borden, and Sixes Design 6 Cents. We want to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors, you Patreon supporters, you channel members, you Twitch subscribers, people. We're also monetized on Facebook, but I don't get it. Like, you got to tell people to buy some like coins or something to throw at us. But we would appreciate it if any of you have those coins to throw them at us. We thank each and every one of you for your kindness, generosity, and support. It really means a lot. Thank you, super chatters, PayPal pledgers, all of you for the support. We truly, truly appreciate it. And we want to thank Mr. Ian, the man with the golden voice, and all the chat room moderators and Discord moderators for helping. We appreciate all of you. So what can I say, friends? That is all I got for you. But we'll be back. I will be back tomorrow night. We'll be doing this live premiere. I would appreciate it if you do join us. I'm sure some people will be confused. So if you're in the live chat and somebody's confused, what's this? This isn't about aliens. Maybe you can help explain it. I would appreciate that. So yeah, that's all we got for you for tonight, friends. But we'll do the premiere tomorrow night at 9 p.m. and I should be at the cabin by that time and in the live chat. I'd appreciate your attendance. So that's all I got for you, friends. Good night, and God bless all of you.